The sky above the Valley of the End had been calm for hours. Wind moved gently across the surface of the river below, brushing against the massive stone statues of Hashirama Senju and Madara Uchiha. Their frozen battle stance watched over the land like silent guardians of an ancient rivalry. Then the air changed. It began as a vibration, soft, unnatural. The birds were the first to react. They scattered violently from the treetops. The river surface trembled as if something enormous moved beneath reality itself. A thin green crack split the sky. Not lightning, not chakra, something else. The crack widened, glowing with emerald and gold energy. Runes shimmered along its edges, ancient symbols from a realm far beyond Shinobi understanding. The tear pulsed once, twice, and then exploded outward in a silent burst of light. A figure fell through. He did not scream. He did not panic. He descended with the arms slightly open, cape flowing like liquid shadow behind him. Then, he landed lightly atop the head of Hashirama's statue. Boots touched stone. Balance. Perfect. Eyes calculating. Loki, God of Mischief, Prince of Asgard, stepped into a world ruled by Chakra. For a long moment, he said nothing. His sharp green eyes scanned the horizon. He could feel it immediately. The air was dense, not with magic as he knew it, but with a structured life force. It flowed in currents, organized and disciplined. It pulsed through the earth like veins beneath skin. Curious, he murmured. He extended one hand slowly. A flicker of golden energy sparked around his fingers. His magic still responded. That was good, very good. But beneath his own power, he sensed something deeper, something wild, something ancient, a presence buried within this world. Loki tilted his head. This realm is not primitive, he whispered. It is restrained. Suddenly, 3 shadows flickered across the stone behind him. He did not turn. I wondered how long it would take, Loki said calmly. Masked shinobi in black armor appeared silently around him. Anbu from Konohagakure. Their movements were precise, efficient, deadly. One of them spoke. You are not registered in any village database. Identify yourself. Loki finally turned, slow and graceful. He offered them a charming smile. I am but a traveler. Lost, perhaps. Surely hospitality is not extinct in this land? No one responded. The air grew tense. Another Anbu stepped forward. Your arrival disrupted chakra patterns across the entire valley. That was no ordinary technique. Loki's smile sharpened slightly. Chakra patterns. So that is what they call it. Fascinating. Ah, he replied softly. I suppose one could say I arrived. Dramatically. Without warning, one Anbu formed hand seals. Fire style, phoenix flower jutsu. Flames scattered through the air toward Loki's chest. But before they struck, he vanished. The fire hit empty stone. The shinobi reacted instantly, forming a defensive formation. A voice echoed behind them. Oh dear, predictable. They spun around and froze. Standing before them was not Loki. It was Minato Namikaze, perfectly replicated. The fourth Hokaga's face. The same calm eyes. The same presence. One Anbu dropped to one knee instinctively. Lord Fourth. But another activated his Sharingan beneath the mask. The red eye spun carefully. It's a genjutsu. Loki watched their confusion with amusement. Genjutsu. Illusion through chakra manipulation. How charming. You see, Loki said, voice shifting back to his true tone as the disguise melted away like mist. Where I come from, illusion is not a trick of energy. It is an art of perception. The Anbu attacked simultaneously. One leaped high with a blade coated in chakra. Another formed hand, seals for lightning style. The third vanished into the trees for a flanking strike. For the first time, Loki's eyes gleamed with excitement. They were coordinated, disciplined. He raised both hands. Illusions multiplied. 10 Lokis stood atop the statue. Then 20. Then 50. Each one moved independently. Each one laughed differently. Lightning tore through 3 of them, but they dissolved like smoke. The blade passed through another. Nothing. Suddenly, one Anbu felt cold steel against his throat. The real Loki stood behind him. "I must commend your efficiency," Loki whispered, "but you mistake me for something bound by rules." The shinobi attempted to counter, but Loki flicked his fingers. Golden chains of light wrapped around their limbs mid-motion. They froze, suspended slightly above the stone. Not chakra, not ninjutsu, pure Asgardian enchantment. Loki walked calmly among them. "You draw power from within yourselves," he observed thoughtfully. How quaint. Self-contained systems, ritual gestures, focused breathing. It is almost admirable. He paused. Then his expression shifted subtly. He could feel more of them approaching. Stronger chakra signatures. Faster. This conversation grows crowded. He sighed. With a snap of his fingers, the chain shattered. The ANBU dropped to the statue's surface, regaining balance instantly. But Loki was already fading into green light. Before vanishing completely, he left behind a single sentence, carried by the wind. "Tell your leaders, a god has arrived." The valley returned to silence. But not peace. Far away, within the hidden village, a young shinobi paused mid-training. Blonde hair, blue eyes, whisker marks on his cheeks. Naruto Uzumaki felt a strange ripple pass through the air. Inside him, a massive fox opened one crimson eye. "This chakra, it does not belong here." Naruto clenched his fist slowly. "Then we'll find out what it is." High above the forests, hidden beyond mortal sight, Loki reappeared on a distant cliff overlooking the village. He studied it carefully. Buildings structured like a spiral. Order. Hierarchy. Military discipline disguised as community. He smiled faintly. "This world worships strength," he whispered, "but it has yet to meet mischief." And somewhere deep beneath the surface of this land, ancient forces stirred in response. The game had begun. The forest outside the hidden leaf trembled with quiet tension. Loki stood atop a high cliff, the wind tugging gently at his emerald cape. Below him, Konohagakure glowed in the late afternoon light. From a distance, it appeared peaceful, almost innocent. But Loki knew better. He could feel it. Thousands of chakra signatures pulsed within the walls, some small and scattered like candle flames, others sharp and disciplined like forged steel, and among them, several that burned like miniature suns. "This realm hides its weapons well," he murmured. He closed his eyes and extended his senses outward. His magic flowed invisibly through the air, weaving between trees, slipping across rooftops, brushing against training grounds and hidden watchposts. The structure fascinated him. Shinobi were not chaotic wielders of power. They were trained from childhood. Organized, loyal to village above self, power shaped by community. How inconvenient. Loki opened his eyes again. "If they believe in unity," he whispered thoughtfully, "then unity shall be tested." Inside the Hokage's office, the atmosphere had shifted. Reports from the ANBU were laid across the desk. The description was precise. Unknown male, foreign chakra signature, advanced illusion capacity, high-level spatial displacement ability. The current Hokage's expression hardened. "This is not a missing nin," she said quietly. "This is something else." A senior jonin responded. The illusion mimicked the fourth Hokage flawlessly. The room fell silent. Impersonating Minato Namikaze was not merely deception. It was psychological warfare. and it had been done effortlessly. Place the village on heightened alert, the Hokage ordered. Discreetly. I don't want panic. Outside the office, whispers were already spreading. Meanwhile, Loki descended into the forest near the village perimeter. He did not rush. He walked slowly, touching tree bark, observing insects, feeling the earth beneath his boots. This world was alive in ways Asgard had never been. Chakra flowed not only through people, but through plants, animals, even the wind. It was systemic, elegant. He paused as a kunai flew toward his neck. Without looking, he tilted his head slightly. The blade passed harmlessly by. "You track well," Loki said. From the trees emerged a masked jonin. "You're inside village territory," the shinobi stated coldly. Loki studied him with mild curiosity. "No grand introduction? No dramatic accusation?" The jonin formed hand seals instantly. "Shadow Clone Jutsu." 5 identical copies appeared, surrounding Loki in a circle. "Ah, multiplication through energy division. Clever." Loki raised an eyebrow. "Very well." He lifted one finger. The forest darkened unnaturally. Shadows stretched and twisted. The clones blinked in confusion as their own silhouettes began moving independently of them. One clone struck at Loki, but instead collided with another clone. Another felt a branch where the ground should have been. Reality bent subtly around them. The jonin's eyes widened. This isn't genjutsu. He was correct. It was something more invasive. Loki wasn't merely altering perception. He was adjusting probability, nudging sensory expectations just enough to cause doubt. And doubt in battle was fatal. Within seconds, the clones dissipated in puffs of smoke. The real jonin lunged with a chakra-coated blade. This time, Loki allowed the blade to strike. It passed through his torso, and the jonin felt nothing. No resistance. No blood. The illusion flickered. The real Loki stood behind him again. "You are disciplined," Loki said calmly. "But discipline without imagination is limitation." He tapped the shinobi lightly on the forehead. The jonin froze, not physically restrained, but mentally overwhelmed as visions flooded his mind. Worlds colliding. Cities floating in the sky. Beings made of starlight. Armies beyond counting. The shinobi collapsed to one knee, gasping. When he looked up, Loki was gone. Inside the village training grounds, a familiar blonde shinobi felt it again. A ripple. A distortion. Naruto Uzumaki stopped mid-sparring session. "What is it?" Sakura asked. Naruto squinted toward the forest. "He's close." Inside his mindscape, iron gates rattled slightly. A massive fox stirred. Kurama opened both crimson eyes this time. "That presence is probing the boundaries of this world," Kurama growled. "It is not Chakra." Naruto folded his arms. "So what is it?" "Old," Kurama replied, "and arrogant." Naruto grinned slightly. "Yeah, I felt that too." Night fell over the hidden leaf. Loki stood upon one of the Hokage monument heads, gazing down at the village lights. He had chosen this position intentionally, symbolic high ground. Statues carved in honor of leaders, icons of unity. Authority immortalized in stone. Loki tilted his head thoughtfully. "Gods carved into mountains," he whispered. "How poetic." He extended his hand slowly. Threads of green energy spread invisibly across the village like delicate spider silk. He was not attacking. Not yet. He was mapping, learning how chakra flowed through barriers, how detection units operated, how sensory-type shinobi scanned for anomalies. The complexity impressed him, but complexity also meant pressure points. He smiled faintly. Every system has fracture lines. Suddenly, a new chakra signature flared behind him, calm but alert. "You enjoy high places, huh?" Loki turned slowly. Standing behind him was Naruto. Wind rustled between them. For a brief moment, neither moved. Loki studied the boy carefully. Bright energy, unrefined but immense. And beneath it, something ancient coiled within. "You must be the vessel," Loki said softly. Naruto frowned. "Name's Naruto." Loki smirked. "Of course it is." Naruto stepped forward. "You've been messing around in our village all day? That's not cool." Loki clasped his hands behind his back. "Messing around? I prefer observing. You tied up A and BU. Lightly restrained. You scared a Jonin half to death. Educational experience." Naruto's eyes narrowed. "You talk too much." Loki's grin widened. "And you punched too quickly." The air between them grew heavier. Chakra began swirling around Naruto's body instinctively. Golden sparks flickered faintly. Loki's eyes gleamed with interest. "Yes," he whispered. "There it is." Naruto formed a Rasengan in his palm. The sphere of spinning chakra hummed loudly. "This is your last warning." Loki did not move. Instead, he leaned slightly closer. "Show me." Naruto charged. The Rasengan collided with Loki's chest and detonated with explosive force. Stone cracked beneath their feet. Dust exploded into the night sky. But as the smoke cleared, Naruto froze. The Rasengan had struck, but Loki stood unharmed. A translucent green barrier shimmered faintly around him. Not broken, not strained, just steady. Loki looked down at the swirling chakra inches from his chest. "Impressive construction," he admitted. "Spiral compression, elegant." Naruto's eyes widened. "How are you?" With a small flick of his wrist, Loki redirected the Rasengan's force sideways. The energy tore across the monument face, carving a deep scar into stone. Naruto stumbled back. For the first time, uncertainty flashed across his face. Loki lowered his hand. "You possess power beyond your understanding," he said quietly. "But power without perspective is merely noise." Naruto clenched his fists. "I don't need perspective from you." Loki's expression softened, not mockery, but genuine curiosity. "Perhaps not," he replied, "but this world may." And high above them, clouds gathered, drawn not by weather, but by tension. The God of Mischief had begun his study, and the Shinobi world had just realized this was no ordinary enemy. Dust rolled off the carved face of the Hokage monument as fragments of stone tumbled into the darkness below. Naruto steadied himself, boots grinding against cracked rock. The redirected Rasengan had carved a massive scar across the stone cheek of a former Hokage, leaving the air thick with debris and tension. Across from him, Loki stood untouched, calm, measured, watching. The faint shimmer of green magic around him faded slowly, like a curtain being drawn back. Naruto wiped dust from his sleeve. "You're not human." Loki tilted his head slightly. "Correct." "Then what are you?" The wind picked up, pulling at Loki's cape as if the night itself waited for his answer. "I am what your legends would call a god," he replied smoothly, "though I find the term flexible." Naruto narrowed his eyes. "We've dealt with gods before." He remembered Kaguya, Madara, beings who believed themselves beyond humanity. Loki sensed the shift in Naruto's chakra, less reckless now, more focused. "Interesting. I do not seek worship," Loki continued. "I seek understanding." Naruto scoffed. "By attacking our village?" "I attacked no one. Your shinobi attacked me. You showed up through the sky." "A dramatic entrance. Yes," Loki admitted, "but hardly a declaration of war." Naruto's jaw tightened. Inside his mindscape, massive iron gates groaned as Kurama pressed closer. "He is measuring you," Kurama growled. "Do not let him dictate the rhythm." Naruto inhaled slowly. "You're strong," he admitted. But this is our home. Loki's expression flickered, subtle amusement mixed with something else. Respect. Home, he repeated quietly. A powerful word. For a brief second, something ancient and personal passed behind Loki's eyes. Memories of Asgard, of exile, of never fully belonging. But the moment vanished. Naruto dashed forward again, this time faster. Shadow clones burst into existence. Utsu! Dozens of Narutos surrounded Loki atop the monument. Each charged from a different angle. Each formed a Rasengan. The night lit up with swirling blue spheres. Loki's smile returned. Better. He lifted both hands. The sky above them rippled. Suddenly, multiple Lokis appeared, mirroring the clones perfectly. Green energy shimmered across the battlefield. Naruto hesitated. The clones hesitated. Which one was real? A Rasengan struck a Loki, who shattered like glass. Another clone lunged and collided with a reflection of himself. The battlefield fractured visually, like broken mirrors floating in midair. Naruto gritted his teeth. This isn't normal genjutsu. He could feel chakra, but it wasn't controlling his senses directly. It was altering spatial perception. Distances felt wrong. Angles bent unnaturally. Up felt slightly sideways. Loki's voice echoed from everywhere at once. You divide your strength among copies. Admirable. But division is vulnerability. Suddenly, several clones dispelled simultaneously, overwhelmed by sensory confusion. Naruto closed his eyes. He remembered something Kakashi had taught him. When senses fail, trust instinct. He let Kurama's chakra flow just slightly. Golden energy flared around him. The illusions flickered. There, a distortion in the pattern. Naruto launched himself toward it. He broke through layers of false Lokis and finally saw the real one standing calmly near the edge of the monument. Naruto swung a Rasengan directly at his face. This time Loki did not block. He sidestepped fluidly. The Rasengan missed by inches and detonated into the sky. Loki countered, not with force, but with touch. He placed 2 fingers against Naruto's forehead. Time slowed. The world faded into green. Naruto found himself standing in a vast illusion. But this illusion was different. It wasn't red like Sharingan Genjutsu. It wasn't dark like Tsukuyomi. It was cosmic. Stars stretched infinitely in every direction. Planets drifted past. Portals opened and closed across space. Naruto looked around in shock. What is this? A glimpse, Loki's voice replied. Loki appeared beside him, hands clasped behind his back. This universe is not isolated. Your wars, your villages, your rivalries, they are microscopic against the scale of existence. Naruto clenched his fists. I don't care about scale. Loki smiled faintly. That is precisely why you are dangerous. He gestured outward. Images formed in space. Armies from other realms. Floating cities. Creatures larger than tailed beasts. If such forces discovered your world, would your unity hold? Naruto's expression hardened. We'd protect it. From gods? Loki asked quietly. Naruto turned to face him directly. If we have to. Silence stretched between them. For the first time, Loki's amusement faded completely. He searched Naruto's face for deception. There was none. Only conviction. The illusion began to crack. Naruto's will was destabilizing it. Interesting. Very interesting. You are not ruled by fear, Loki observed. No, Naruto replied firmly. I'm ruled by bonds. The word echoed strangely in the star-filled void. Bonds. Loki's eyes darkened for a fraction of a second. He released the illusion. The Hokage monument snapped back into reality. Wind roared around them again. Naruto stumbled slightly but remained standing. Loki stepped back toward the monument's edge. You are stronger than most gods I've met, Loki said quietly. Naruto blinked. What? Not in power, Loki clarified. In foundation. Below them, alarms began to sound faintly in the village. Reinforcements were coming. Loki glanced toward the approaching chakra signatures. Multiple Jonin. ANBU captains. Strategic response units. Efficient. Coordinated. Unified. He looked back at Naruto. This is not the end of our conversation. Naruto stepped forward. You're not going anywhere. Loki smirked. Oh, but that is where you misunderstand me. Green light began swirling around him again. But this time, Naruto reacted instantly. He lunged forward and grabbed Loki's wrist. For a brief second, their energies clashed directly. Golden chakra against emerald magic. The air cracked like thunder. The monument beneath them split further. Loki's eyes widened slightly. Naruto's grip tightened. You don't just show up, mess with us, and leave. Loki studied the boy's determined face. Such audacity. Such stubborn hope. He almost admired it. Almost. Then Loki leaned closer and whispered, Watch the horizon, Naruto Uzumaki. With a burst of blinding green light, he vanished. Naruto stumbled forward as the energy dissipated. Silence returned slowly. Reinforcements landed around him moments later. What happened? One Anbu demanded. Naruto stared at the night sky where the portal energy had briefly flickered. He's not trying to destroy us, Naruto said quietly. Then what does he want? Another Shinobi asked. Naruto clenched his fists. He's testing us. High above the clouds, invisible to all sensory units, Loki reappeared suspended in the sky. He looked down at the hidden leaf once more. No, he murmured softly. I am evaluating. He had felt something unexpected tonight. Resistance without hatred. Power without corruption. Unity without coercion. This world fascinated him more than he intended. And fascination for Loki was far more dangerous than conquest. Below, the shinobi world prepared for defense. Above, the God of Mischief began planning something far more subtle than invasion. The fall had not been accidental, and his arrival had only just begun to reshape destiny. The night did not calm after Loki vanished. It only pretended to. High above the clouds, suspended in the darkness between moonlight and shadow, Loki observed the hidden leaf in silence. Below him, the village had shifted into defensive rhythm. Barrier teams activated layered detection field. Sensor-type shinobi spread across rooftops. Anbu units doubled patrol rotations. Signals moved swiftly from tower to tower. Efficient. Disciplined. Impressive. Loki folded his arms behind his back. They adapt quickly, he murmured. He could have attacked directly, overwhelmed them with spectacle, summoned constructs large enough to shatter walls and provoke chaos. But brute force was dull. No. If this world was built upon unity, then unity would be examined. Gently, surgically. He extended his hand. Green threads of magic unraveled from his fingertips and disappeared downward like invisible rain. They slipped through barrier seals, not breaking them, but flowing between their structured chakra patterns. Chakra barriers were designed to detect foreign energy. But Loki's magic was not foreign chakra. It was something else entirely. The threads entered the village silently. Inside a dimly lit operations room, several shinobi studied reports of the encounter. We've never recorded energy like this, one sensor specialist said, frustration creeping into his voice. It's not elemental. It's not natural transformation. It's not even sage-related. Is it Otsutsuki? Another asked quietly. The room stiffened at the name. No, the lead analyst answered. It doesn't feel parasitic. It feels intentional. Above them, faint green light shimmered briefly across the ceiling, unnoticed. Elsewhere, Naruto Uzumaki stood alone on the Hokage monument, staring at the scar his redirected Rasengan had carved into stone. Wind passed across his face. Inside him, Kurama spoke again. He is not finished. Naruto nodded slightly. Yeah, I know. What troubles you? Kurama asked. Naruto remained silent for several seconds. He didn't feel like the others, Naruto finally admitted. Not like Madara, not like Pain. He wasn't trying to prove he was right. Kurama's massive eyes narrowed. He was studying you. Exactly. That unsettled Naruto more than open hostility. An enemy who attacked could be defeated. An enemy who observed was preparing. Across the village, subtle disturbances began. 2 patrol units reported conflicting sensory readings in the eastern district. A barrier seal flickered for half a second before stabilizing. One Jonin briefly saw his teammate standing where no one was. Small, insignificant, but precise. Loki reappeared on a quiet rooftop. He watched as 2 shinobi argued over contradictory reports. One insisted he had seen a masked intruder. The other insisted the area had been clear. Loki smiled faintly. I have not struck a single blow, he whispered. And yet doubt begins. He lifted a finger. A tiny illusion formed, no larger than a coin, floating above his hand. Within it, 2 mirrored images argued endlessly, each convinced of their own perception. He crushed it gently. This world's strength is shared belief, shared reality. His eyes gleamed. Let us test how stable that reality truly is. At the village gates, a squad prepared to deploy beyond the walls to investigate residual energy in the forest. Among them was a young Chunin, nervous but determined. He inhaled slowly. We're just scouting, his captain assured him. They moved into the trees. Moments later, faint green light shimmered between branches. The Chunin froze. He saw movement ahead. Captain! The figure stepped into view. It was Naruto. Stand down, the illusion said calmly. False alarm. The Chunin blinked. Lord Seventh. Something felt wrong, but the face was perfect. The chakra signature felt correct. The captain stepped forward cautiously. Sir, we were ordered. The illusion flickered. Just slightly. Long enough. The Chunin's doubt spiked. In that split second, Loki allowed the illusion to distort deliberately. Naruto's face shifted into Loki's smirk, then vanished entirely. The squad recoiled. What was that? Panic rose, not overwhelming, but sharp. They tightened formation instinctively. Trust had been shaken. Above the trees, invisible, Loki observed their reaction carefully. Yes, he murmured. Microfractures. Back within the village, emergency meetings escalated. We are experiencing coordinated illusion infiltration, a strategist reported. But no genjutsu residue, another countered. Then what are we dealing with? Silence filled the room. Naruto entered abruptly. He's trying to make us question each other, Naruto said. All eyes turned toward him. He doesn't need to destroy buildings, Naruto continued. He just needs us to hesitate. A veteran Jonin frowned. So, what's your plan? Naruto clenched his fist. We don't panic. We communicate everything clearly, no assumptions, no acting alone. Kurama rumbled approvingly within him. Unity strengthened in response to threat. Exactly what Loki was measuring. High above, Loki watched the village stabilize again. Interesting. He had expected faster fragmentation. Instead, they compensated. Adjusted protocols. Increased transparency. He tilted his head. They evolved mid-crisis. That complicated things. But it also intrigued him further. He descended slowly, landing once more upon the Hokage monument, this time openly. His presence flared intentionally. Chakra sensors across the village lit up instantly. He's back! Someone shouted. Shinobi flooded toward the monument. Within moments, dozens surrounded him. Weapons drawn. Eyes focused. Naruto stepped forward again. This time, He did not rush. "What do you want?" Naruto demanded firmly. Loki looked at the assembled shinobi, Anbu, Jonin, Chunin, all unified in Stan. He felt their chakra network pulsing collectively. It was almost beautiful. "I wish to see," Loki said calmly, his voice carrying clearly across the monument, "whether your unity was fragile or resilient." Naruto frowned. "And?" Loki's lips curved faintly. "Resilient." A murmur passed through the shinobi ranks. "Then leave," Naruto said. Loki's gaze shifted to the horizon beyond the village walls. Dark forest, distant lands, other hidden villages, other powers, and "I will," Loki replied softly, "for now." Green light began swirling around him again, but slower this time. Deliberate. "Consider this a courtesy," he continued. "There are forces in the multiverse far less patient than I." Naruto stepped forward. "You're not our teacher." "No," Loki agreed. His eyes met Naruto's one last time. "But you may find that I am not your enemy either." For a brief second, something unspoken passed between them, mutual recognition of strength. Then Loki raised his hand. The sky above cracked open once more. Emerald energy tore a vertical line through the cloud. Wind howled across the monument. The shinobi braced themselves. Loki stepped backward toward the portal. "This world," he said, quietly, almost to himself, "is far more interesting than I anticipated." He paused at the threshold of green light. "Guard it well." And then he vanished. The portal sealed with a sharp flash. Silence fell over the Hokage monument. The shinobi remained tense for several seconds longer. Then slowly, gradually, they lowered their weapons. Naruto exhaled. "He'll be back," he said quietly. Kurama's deep voice echoed in agreement. "Yes, and next time it will not be curiosity guiding him." The wind brushed across the carved stone faces once more, but the scar across the monument remained. A reminder. The God of Mischief had fallen into the shinobi world, not as conqueror, not yet as enemy, but as something far more dangerous, an observer who had begun to understand its strengths and its weaknesses. The game had shifted, and the shinobi world no longer stood alone in its universe. The hidden leaf had not relaxed since Loki's departure. Barrier teams rotated in shifts twice as fast as usual. Sensor-type shinobi extended their range beyond the forest perimeter. Every anomaly, every flicker of unfamiliar energy triggered investigation. And yet, for 3 days, nothing happened. No green portals, no distortions, no illusions, which made it worse. On the outskirts of the village, beneath the quiet shade of tall trees, Sasuke Uchiha trained alone. His blade cut clean arcs through the air. Controlled. Precise. Lightning chakra flickered along the edge, humming faintly with restrained violence. Unlike Naruto, Sasuke did not wait emotionally. He analyzed. He replayed every detail reported by Anbu. Foreign energy, reality distortion, illusions that were not genjutsu. A being who called himself a god. Sasuke's Sharingan activated slowly, red eyes scanning the forest even though nothing visible moved. "If he wants to test this village," Sasuke muttered quietly, "he'll look for weakness." And weakness was not loud power. It was ambition. A soft clap echoed behind him. Sasuke turned instantly, blade raised. Standing a few meters away, leaning casually against a tree trunk, was Loki. No portal. No dramatic entrance. He was simply there. "Your reflexes are sharp," Loki observed. Sasuke did not lower his weapon. "You're inside village territory again." "Yes." Silence stretched between them. Loki studied Sasuke carefully. The posture, the tension in his shoulders, the discipline in his breathing. "And you," Loki continued softly, "are not like the others." Sasuke's Sharingan spun slightly. What do you want? Loki stepped forward, slow and unthreatening. Conversation. Lightning chakra intensified along Sasuke's blade. You don't get that privilege. Loki smiled faintly. Ah. Defensive. Predictable. Sasuke attacked. He vanished in a burst of speed, blade aimed directly for Loki's throat. But the blade passed through empty air. Loki shimmered, then reappeared behind him. No hostility, Loki corrected calmly. I came alone. Sasuke pivoted instantly, launching a kick infused with chakra. Again, Loki dissolved like smoke. The real Loki stood atop a nearby branch, hands clasped behind his back. You chase strength, Loki said quietly, but you define it narrowly. Sasuke's eyes narrowed. You know nothing about me. On the contrary, Loki replied, I know ambition when I see it. Sasuke froze for half a second. Not out of fear, out of irritation. Loki's tone was not mocking. It was analytical. You carry power inherited through blood, Loki continued. The Sharingan, an eye that bends perception. Sasuke's Sharingan pulsed. And you bend perception too, Sasuke replied coldly. Loki's smile sharpened. Yes. Wind moved through the leaves. Two masters of illusion stood facing one another. Sasuke formed rapid hand seals. Genjutsu. The world shifted instantly. The forest turned crimson. The sky darkened unnaturally. Time slowed. In the blink of an eye, Sasuke had pulled Loki into a Sharingan illusion. Chains erupted from the ground, wrapping around Loki's limb. Blades formed from shadow. Sasuke stepped forward within the red-tinted world. You're not from here, he said calmly. That means your perception still relies on sensory structure. He tightened the illusion. Pain stimuli increased. Reality distorted further. For a brief moment, Loki remained still. Then, he laughed. Not loudly, not wildly. Softly, amused. The crimson world flickered. A hairline crack appeared across the illusion sky. Sasuke's eyes widened slightly. Impossible. Loki tilted his head inside the genjutsu. You misunderstand something fundamental, he said gently. The chains around him dissolved into green particles. The red sky shattered like glass. And suddenly, Sasuke found himself standing in a completely different illusion. Stars stretched endlessly in every direction. The ground beneath him was transparent crystal, reflecting infinite versions of himself. Loki stood before him, unharmed. Your Sharingan manipulates chakra pathways to override perception, Loki explained calmly. Elegant, efficient. He stepped closer. But my mind does not rely solely on this realm's energy. The illusion shifted again. Hundreds of Lokis appeared across the mirrored crystal floor, each one speaking at once. Your eyes see patterns. Your mind predicts outcomes. You calculate angles of attack. Sasuke's Sharingan spun rapidly, attempting to track the real one. Which of us is false? The Lokis asked in unison. Sasuke closed one eye briefly. He focused, reading micro-movements, searching for chakra irregularities. But there were none, because this wasn't chakra-based deception. It was something layered deeper. Sasuke clenched his jaw. Then, he activated his Mangekyo Sharingan. The pattern shifted violently. Amaterasu. Black flames ignited instantly across multiple Lokis. The fire burned with inextinguishable fury. Several illusions vanished, but not all. The real Loki stood untouched just outside the flame radius. He looked genuinely impressed. Now we approach something interesting, Loki murmured. Sasuke's eyes bled slightly as he maintained focus. You are not the only one who bends reality. The battlefield of illusions trembled. Two perception warpers. Two minds refusing to yield. The true duel had just begun. The red glow of the Mangekyo Sharingan pulsed rhythmically across Sasuke's eyes. Every heartbeat seemed to synchronize with the black flames of Amaterasu licking the illusions around him. The forest had vanished, replaced entirely by Loki's layered reality. Endless mirrors, floating fragments of sky, impossible angles, and his own reflections multiplied beyond comprehension. Sasuke's breathing was steady, but his mind raced. Loki had not attacked directly yet. Instead, he challenged perception, tested instinct, and probed for weakness. And Sasuke, the Uchiha who had trained his entire life to control the battlefield with precision, felt the faintest ripple of uncertainty. "Focus," Sasuke muttered under his breath. The Loki closest to him grinned, tilting his head. "Ah, so you have discipline. Sharpened like a blade." Sasuke struck. Lightning coiled along his katana as he cut diagonally through one Loki. The illusion shattered, revealing another, and another, and another. "Impossible," Sasuke growled, spinning rapidly to keep the illusions within sight. "Not impossible," Loki's voice echoed from every direction simultaneously. "Just complicated." Sasuke's Sharingan flared. He spun again, predicting patterns, anticipating probability, but each calculation seemed to unfold just slightly differently than expected. His eyes widened as he realized these illusions weren't purely visual. They affected his perception of space, momentum, and even timing. Each step forward felt like pushing through water made of smoke. "You rely on structure," Loki whispered, materializing beside him in the illusion. "I rely on chaos layered upon structure. You understand patterns, but only the ones you expect. And that," Loki leaned closer, "is where I can twist the world around you." Sasuke's eyes shifted to the Mangekyo. Amaterasu flames licked across the mirrored surfaces, attempting to burn through any distortion. But even as the black fire consumed illusions, Loki's reflections multiplied faster, reforming instantly. Sasuke's mind reeled. This isn't chakra manipulation. This isn't a standard genjutsu. "Correct," Loki murmured, circling him like a predator studying prey. "Your Sharingan controls perception within certain rules. I bend rules themselves." Sasuke's grip tightened on his sword. His Mangekyo flared, expanding the Amaterasu flames, turning the mirrored illusion world into a furnace of black fire. Still, Loki remained untouched. "Fascinating," Loki said softly. "You wield the fire of a god's eye, yet it does not consume me. Your skill, it's almost delightful." The illusions shifted violently. Suddenly, the crystal floor fractured beneath Sasuke's feet. Reflections multiplied tenfold. Every direction he looked, a Loki appeared, some in human form, some monstrous, some ethereal and shifting like smoke, all speaking simultaneously. "You chase revenge. You chase destiny. You chase power." Sasuke staggered, mind forced to process hundreds of voices at once. His Sharingan strained, pupils spinning to keep up with the rapidly shifting visual cues. "You see," Loki whispered directly into his mind now. "Your ambition is predictable, your pain consistent, your strategy linear." Sasuke's teeth clenched. "I am not predictable." "And yet," Loki replied softly, stepping closer, "here you are, in a world you cannot control." Sasuke activated Susanoo instinctively. The ethereal warrior burst into form around him, shimmering with blue energy and shielded by spectral armor. Its gigantic sword swung, cutting through multiple Lokis at once. Crystals shattered, mirrors fractured, yet still Loki remained untouched, standing outside the reach of the great ethereal blade. "Impressive," Loki said, tilting his head. "A construct of defense, aggression, and instinct. But even your Susanoo bends to expectation. It cannot adapt in ways your mind does not allow. Sasuke's eyes bled slightly from overuse. The Mangekyo had been pushed to its limit. He blinked rapidly, shaking his head. I've never faced anything like you. Loki's smile softened, almost imperceptibly. Nor have I faced one quite like you. Most humans bend, break, or falter. You do not. He raised a hand, and the illusions intensified further. Now the sky seemed to fall inward, the mirrors twisting space above and below, projecting infinite paths, infinite possibilities. Sasuke found himself walking along invisible bridges, jumping between fragments of floating illusions while trying to maintain focus. You are learning, Loki said, appearing at multiple points at once. Faster than expected. Sasuke gritted his teeth. I have no choice. Another flicker of green light traced Loki's path. The illusions began to pulse subtly, testing reactions, measuring predictability. Loki's magic intertwined with the natural laws of the Naruto universe, probing the limits of chakra and perception. Sasuke's Sharingan spun violently, tracking multiple threads simultaneously. The Amaterasu flared across the floating crystal floors, consuming illusions indiscriminately. Yet Loki's form persisted, teasing, almost taunting. You are strong, Loki said quietly, and dangerous, but strength alone will not suffice. Sasuke activated his full Rinnegan awareness for the first time, sensing the distortions in space itself. He realized Loki's power did not simply imitate or mimic. It anticipated. It read. It adapted. Every illusion was a response to his instincts before he even acted. I will find you, Sasuke muttered, no matter how you hide. Loki's smile deepened. Oh, I do not hide. I test, observe, learn, and you. He stepped forward one last time, shadows bending unnaturally around him. You are fascinating. At that moment, a low rumble shook the crystal illusion floor. The world itself seemed to react to Loki's presence. Sasuke steadied himself, feeling the air shift unnaturally around him. He was fighting a foe who did not simply attack, but reshape the battlefield itself. Good, Loki whispered. Now, let us see how far your Sharingan can stretch. And with that, the battlefield dissolved into a whirlwind of illusions, reflections, and impossible angles, forcing Sasuke to rely not only on his eyes, but on every ounce of instinct, strategy, and adaptability he had cultivated in his entire life. The duel had escalated beyond skill, beyond raw power. It had become a war of perception, mind against mind, vision against vision. And neither would yield easily. The illusionary battlefield twisted and bent around Sasuke like a living organism. Crystalline shards of floor spun in midair, reflecting countless Lokis. Stars and shards of broken skies stretched infinitely above and below him. Every movement he made seemed mirrored, every step multiplied. Sasuke's Sharingan burned red, pupils spinning like wheels of perception, analyzing probability, predicting motion, detecting chakra. Yet even with his Rinnegan awareness layered atop the Sharingan, Loki remained untouchable. You manipulate reality itself, Sasuke muttered under his breath, voice strained, not just perception. Yes, Loki whispered, materializing in multiple locations at once, grinning faintly. I bend expectation, probability, causality, the rules of your world, subtle but undeniable. Sasuke's fingers tightened on his sword. He extended chakra to his Susanoo again, armor expanding, wings unfurling, the massive sword shimmering with concentrated energy. If it's rules you want to break, I'll force your hand. He struck. The Susanoo blade cleaved through dozens of Loki clones, shards of crystal splintering across the illusionary sky. The black of Amaterasu flames consumed remaining reflections with relentless intensity. Yet still, the real Loki remained untouched, standing atop a floating shard of crystal, like a king observing a battlefield. Sasuke's eyes bled slightly from overuse of Mangekyo Sharingan. His body shook, yet his mind stayed razor-focused. "You rely on me making mistakes," Loki said softly, stepping closer, though each step shifted location with impossible speed. "I do not make mistakes." Sasuke's lips tightened. "Then I'll force you to react." He formed a series of complex hand seals, fast, precise, fluid, fire style, great fireball technique. A massive ball of roaring flame erupted from his mouth, spinning toward one of Loki's mirrored images. The illusion shattered, but Loki, the real Loki, appeared elsewhere, watching the fireball arc harmlessly past him. "You're predictable," Loki said calmly, almost conversationally. "In chaos, patterns emerge. Even rebellion has rhythm." Sasuke's Sharingan spun faster, almost painfully. "I am not predictable." The illusions twisted violently, forcing him to jump across floating shards of the fractured sky. Crystals reflected infinite versions of himself, each reacting slightly differently to Loki's movements. "You see," Loki whispered, circling him in impossible ways. "You anticipate me. You expect me, and yet I am everywhere and nowhere at once. Do you understand now why raw skill is insufficient?" Sasuke's body moved on autopilot, dodging, attacking, countering, every instinct triggered, every thought calculated. Yet the battlefield shifted faster than he could fully comprehend. A subtle laugh echoed in his mind, soft, almost melodic. "You are remarkable," Loki continued. "Not arrogant, not blinded by hate. You do not panic, even as the rules of your world crumble around you." Sasuke's eyes narrowed. "I'm not impressed by words." With a snap of his fingers, Loki bent the illusion further. Gravity reversed in moments, then shifted sideways. Path air. Crystal shards fell upward, then dissolved into starlight. The very landscape became a puzzle designed to trap perception itself. Sasuke growled, leaning into his Mangekyo, activating Susanoo fully. The ethereal warrior expanded to massive proportions, wings spreading like a protective shield across multiple planes. Amaterasu flames flared around him, consuming more and more illusions. Loki watched, eyes glinting. "Ah, the famous Susanoo," he said softly. "A shield forged from your very essence. Elegant, but even it bends to expectation." He flicked his wrist. The crystal shards reacted to his will, bending and spinning, diverting the Susanoo's strikes, twisting the flames, scattering energy harmlessly. Sasuke's Mangekyo strained. His vision tunneled as he fought to maintain control over the battlefield. Loki's presence tested not only his perception, but his endurance. "You are impressive," Loki said, stepping into view so close Sasuke could feel the heat from his aura. "But there is more to this world than strength alone. Strategy, flexibility, adaptation, and most importantly, perception beyond vision." Sasuke growled, blades clashing against crystal shards. He realized Loki was teaching without teaching, forcing him to react, to adapt, to expand the limits of Sharingan perception. The illusions multiplied again, faster this time, fracturing in impossible angles, looping reality in spirals of reflection. The very laws of physics seemed optional here. Sasuke's eyes flared, muscles tensing. "I'll find a way." Loki's grin widened faintly. "Yes, and that is why I am interested. You are more than a tool of revenge or ambition. You are potential." The infinite mirrored sky shifted again. Loki disappeared briefly, only to reappear in front of Sasuke instantly, placing a single finger on his chest. The crystal battlefield trembled violently. Sasuke's Sharingan detected the displacement, but not the intent. "You are clever," Loki said softly. "And dangerous, but cleverness alone will not predict chaos born outside your rules." Sasuke's stance tightened. Amaterasu flared brighter. Susanu's wings expanded protectively. He had learned quickly that brute strength alone would not overcome Loki. He needed perception beyond prediction. He needed instinct. And the war of eyes and illusions escalated further, beyond power, beyond skill, into the realm of pure mental warfare. Above the crystal shards, Loki observed silently, as the Sharingan's true limits were tested, and as Sasuke's mind adapted to the impossible. The duel had become a dance of gods and mortals. Perception against perception. Instinct against manipulation. And neither would yield easily. The crystal illusion battlefield pulsed with energy, every reflection refracting chaos and challenge. Loki's green magic intertwined seamlessly with the fabric of the illusion, bending not just space, but expectation itself. Sasuke's Sharingan strained, spinning violently, mapping probabilities and anticipating motion, yet still the God of Mischief evaded every strike. "You are remarkable," Loki said softly, circling him like a predator studying prey. "Not only skilled, but adaptive. You do not falter even when everything you perceive bends against you." Sasuke's mangekyou bled slightly, the strain of constant prediction and countering, pushing him toward his limits. "I don't falter," he growled, "and I don't surrender." Loki smiled, faintly. "No. That is why this is so entertaining." He raised both hands, and suddenly the infinite mirrors fractured violently. The shards rotated, shifted, and multiplied faster than Sasuke could track. Each mirrored Loki spoke all simultaneously. "You anticipate. You calculate. You react." Sasuke's blade swung through multiple reflections, the Amaterasu flames, consuming hundreds of illusions. Yet still, the real Loki stood untouched, ever calm. "You rely on pattern recognition," Loki said quietly, appearing just beside him. "Even your Sharingan has limits, and limits." He spread his fingers, and the shards beneath them twisted violently. "Are the perfect place to test control." Sasuke's eyes narrowed. He realized Loki was not attacking in the traditional sense. This was a battle of minds, of perception, of instinct. Every illusion tested a reaction. Every mirrored world analyzed his thought process. Every misstep revealed subtle cracks. Sasuke clenched his teeth, summoning every ounce of chakra. Susanoo expanded, wings unfurling, energy radiating across the fractured sky. Amaterasu blazed with unrelenting fury, devouring the mirrors and shards in a black blaze. Still, Loki adapted instantly, phasing across shards and slipping around angles impossible for a mortal eye to track. "You are clever," Loki said, voice almost inaudible above the roar of flames and shattering crystal. "But cleverness alone cannot overcome chaos born outside your rules." Sasuke's eyes spun furiously. "Then I'll break your rules." With a rapid sequence of hand seals, he activated a series of attacks simultaneously. Lightning-style blades, fire-style projectiles, and focused chakra blasts erupted in unison. The crystal shards shook violently, the illusion bending to accommodate the sudden onslaught. Loki, however, laughed softly. "Ah, now you are learning." Each attack that should have landed collided with another shard, redirected by subtle probability shifts that Loki controlled invisibly. The illusions multiplied exponentially, testing every reaction, probing every decision. Sasuke's heart raced. He could feel the strain of his Mangekyo Sharingan and the mental load of Susanoo pushing him to his limits. Yet he refused to falter. Each strike, each dodge, each decision sharpened his focus, honed his instincts. Loki stopped briefly, observing, "This is rare. Few can adapt so quickly. Few can resist the mental pressure without breaking." He flicked his wrist, and suddenly the mirrors rotated violently, forming a massive spiral around Sasuke. Gravity shifted unexpectedly, angles bent, seemingly impossible to traverse. Multiple Lokis appeared at once, whispering probabilities and possibilities into the Uchiha's mind. Sasuke stumbled, but did not fall. He breathed deeply, letting the instincts honed from a lifetime of survival and battle take over. "You rely on your eyes," Loki said softly, appearing before him again. "Yet vision alone cannot navigate this. Instinct and will are just as important." Sasuke's eyes burned red. His vision tunneled into clarity, ignoring the distortions of mirrors and illusions. He pushed through the impossible angles, calculated the shifts in gravity, the reflections, the false pathways. Finally, he reached a shard where Loki stood completely still. For a moment, there was silence, both aware of the other's strength, both measuring, both calculating. "You are extraordinary," Loki said, genuinely impressed now. Not because of raw power, but because you bend perception itself without surrendering. That few can do. Sasuke clenched his fists. "I'm not done." Loki tilted his head. "No, you are not. And that is why this duel is interesting." The crystal shards began to dissolve slowly as Loki withdrew his illusions, leaving the battlefield fractured but stable. The black flames of Amaterasu burned out harmlessly as the illusory environment dissipated. Sasuke stood alone atop a fragment of crystal, Susanoo slowly fading. He was exhausted, body and mind, but alive. Loki appeared finally, calmly on the same shard, emerald energy glowing faintly around him. "You have potential," he said quietly, "far beyond most mortals. Your Sharingan, your will, both are rare." Sasuke's chest heaved. "You're not invincible," he said firmly, voice steady despite exhaustion. "I can see through your tricks. I will surpass them." Loki's smile widened faintly. "Perhaps. That is why I will observe further." He lifted a hand. The green magic shimmered, forming threads that traced across the shattered illusionary sky. Then, with a soft snap of his fingers, he vanished entirely, leaving Sasuke alone on the crystal shard. Breathing heavily, silence returned to the forest outside the hidden leaf. No illusions, no distortions, only the faint shimmer of residual energy lingering in the air. Sasuke deactivated his Mangekyo, letting his eyes rest. His body was fatigued, but his mind was sharper than before. Every illusion, every mirrored Loki, every impossible angle had forced him to expand his perception, to test instincts against probability, to strengthen his will. And somewhere, Loki watched, observing from beyond the horizon, invisible and untouchable. The God of Mischief had tested the Sharingan, pushed it to its limits, and discovered something rare indeed, a mortal whose mind adapted almost as quickly as his own. Sasuke's chest rose and fell slowly. "Next time," he muttered quietly, "I won't just react. I'll anticipate." Loki's green energy shimmered faintly in the distance, unseen, as he whispered softly to himself. "You are extraordinary, Uchiha. The dance of perception has only begun." The night held its breath. The duel of minds, eyes, and instinct had paused, but it was far from over. And in the shadows beyond the hidden leaf, Both God and Shinobi prepared for the next confrontation, each aware that this was only the beginning of a battle that would challenge the very limits of perception, strategy, and power. The wind in the hidden leaf had shifted since Loki's arrival. Not violently, not catastrophically, but subtly, like a distant tremor felt through the earth. Leaves rustled in unnatural patterns, shadows stretched too long, and faint disturbances in chakra networks made even the most experienced Aenbu uneasy. Far away, in the depths of an abandoned hideout hidden beneath the mountains, a pair of red cloud robes glimmered faintly in candlelight. "Do you feel it?" one voice asked, low and cautious. "Of course I feel it," replied the other. The tone was calm, calculating, almost predatory. A foreign energy, more potent than any chakra I have sensed in recent years. And yet, it is not native to this world. The first figure stepped forward. Pain. Nagato's Rinnegan glowed faintly in the dim light. It is unlike anything even we have encountered. Its flow does not respond to chakra patterns. It bypasses barriers. It infiltrates perception. The second figure, cloaked and hooded, shook his head slightly. Itachi Uchiha's Sharingan glimmered beneath the shadows of his hood. "A god," he said simply. "And gods are dangerous because they are not bound by our rules." Pain's expression hardened. If it chooses to remain a distant observer, the hidden leaf will eventually adjust. But if it acts, it could destabilize the balance of power among the villages. Itachi stepped closer, voice calm but firm. "It has already interfered. The child of the Nine Tails, the Uchiha, their defenses were tested. This is no ordinary foe. The potential for manipulation is immense." Pain tilted his head, considering. "Do you propose we intervene?" Itachi's eyes narrowed. The Akatsuki cannot ignore a variable that could threaten not only our objectives, but the very structure of this world. Information gathering is imperative. Observation alone will not suffice. Outside, clouds moved unnaturally over the hidden leaf. Somewhere beyond the village, Loki's influence still lingered. Threads of his magic weaving invisibly, probing, measuring, learning. And though the shinobi of the hidden leaf believed the danger had temporarily passed, the Akatsuki had already perceived the anomaly. Inside the hideout, Itachi spread a small map across a low wooden table. Hidden leaf, hidden sand, hidden mist. Each village marked with precision. "This energy," Itachi said quietly, "was first observed in the hidden leaf. But the potential impact is not localized. A being capable of manipulating perception at this scale could destabilize the world itself." Pain's Rinnegan pulsed faintly. A god does not follow village loyalties. It is unpredictable but intelligent. It will test, learn, and adapt. The hidden leaf's response has been impressive. Yes, but they are human. And humans, he said slowly, are limited. Itachi's fingers brushed over the map. The Akatsuki requires knowledge of strength, intention, and potential weaknesses. This is not merely a mission of elimination. We must understand what we are dealing with. From a shadowed corner, another voice spoke, hushed but sharp. Kisame Hoshigaki leaned against a wall, arms crossed. "And what if it attacks us first? Gods don't follow rules. They don't negotiate." Itachi's eyes reflected faint candlelight. "Then we will respond accordingly, but attacking blindly would be foolish." Pain folded his hands, considering. Observation, infiltration, gathering intelligence from the periphery. We do not yet know whether it is malevolent neutral, or something else entirely, but a being capable of testing the Uchiha, a vessel of the Nine Tails. Such a force could tip the balance of power in ways we cannot yet predict. Kisame's sharp grin revealed his shark-like teeth. Sounds like fun. Itachi's expression remained calm. This is not about fun. This is about survival, for us and for the world. Meanwhile, far above the forest canopy, Loki floated silently, observing Hidden Leaf from a distance. He had no interest in revealing himself to the Akatsuki, not yet, but subtle disturbances in chakra networks caught his attention. "They watch," he murmured softly. "Curious, calculating, dangerous, yes, but not yet aware of the full scope of reality." A faint smile crept across his face. Perfect. Back in the Akatsuki hideout, strategies were laid out meticulously. Itachi's Sharingan traced patterns of probability, cross-referencing reports from distant villages. Pain's Rinnegan measured residual chakra disturbances, calculating potential paths of influence. "We will send scouts," Itachi said quietly. "No engagement unless necessary. We observe first. Any confrontation must be controlled, predictable, and decisive. If the Hidden Leaf faces a god, they cannot fight blindly, and neither can we." Pain nodded. "Agreed. Knowledge before action." The room fell silent for a moment, each member considering the implications. A god had entered their world. A god capable of probing perception, testing instincts, manipulating probability. And unlike the Shinobi, the Akatsuki understood one thing. A threat this intelligent required patience, precision, and strategy. Itachi's gaze lingered on the map. "We will learn, and when the time comes," Pain finished the thought, "we will decide the appropriate course." Outside, the wind carried the faintest echo of green light, threads of Loki's subtle magic brushing the forests around Hidden Leaf. No one in the village noticed, but those attuned to disturbance would sense it. A presence unlike Chakra, unlike anything they had felt before. And the Akatsuki. They were already awake to it. Silent, patient, watching. The world had shifted, and the players were now aware. A god had arrived, and the Akatsuki had noticed. The game of observation, manipulation, and control was only beginning. Loki had drawn the attention of some of the most dangerous eyes in the Shinobi world, and those eyes would not rest. The first threads of strategy had been cast, and far beyond the Hidden Leaf, a war of perception and ambition was preparing to unfold, one in which gods, ninjas, and ambition would collide in unpredictable ways. The candlelight flickered across the walls of the Akatsuki hideout, casting elongated shadows that danced like spirits. Each member present remained silent, absorbing the implications of what had been discovered. Loki's arrival had shifted the balance not through violence, but through subtle manipulation and observation. "It is not like anything we have faced before," Pain murmured, voice low, measured. "Chakra manipulation, genjutsu, summoning, all are tangible, bound by rules we understand. This is not." Itachi's eyes narrowed, the faint glow of his Sharingan scanning the room. "It does not attack openly. It observes, tests, and calculates. That is what makes it dangerous." Kiyame grinned faintly, sharp teeth glinting. "So we're dealing with a game player. Someone who toys with us before striking. Interesting." "Dangerous," Itachi corrected. "Not interesting. Every misstep could be catastrophic." A younger member of the Akatsuki, hidden partially in shadow, spoke cautiously. "Do we have any idea of its abilities or limits?" Pain's Rinnegan pulsed faintly as he lifted his gaze. We know only what has been observed. It can manipulate perception, spatial awareness, even probability in subtle ways. It can evade attacks that should be unavoidable, and it studies its opponents before engaging directly. Itachi's lips pressed into a thin line. It challenged the Uchiha. It tested the Nine-Tails host. That alone reveals its intelligence and intent. It is not merely curious. It seeks information, and it adapts quickly. Kisame crossed his arms. So we watch and wait, gather intel, play along until it's convenient to strike. It is not that simple, Itachi said quietly. This is not a typical opponent. Observation alone may not suffice. One misstep could expose vulnerabilities we cannot repair. Pain considered this, the air heavy with tension. Then we must ensure our scouts are prepared for all contingencies. No one is to engage without orders. No one is to confront directly. Every action must be deliberate, calculated. Itachi's Sharingan glinted in the candlelight. And if it notices us, Pain's gaze was steady. Then we become more subtle. We adapt as it adapts. It is testing the hidden leaf and its strength. But the Akatsuki can manipulate information, misdirect, and control perception as well. Let it test us. We are not unprepared. Kisame let out a low chuckle. Sounds like fun, though a lot more cerebral than I'm used to. Itachi's gaze remained fixed on the map of the Shinobi world. He traced the hidden leaf, hidden mist, and hidden sand with a single finger. We must anticipate every possible interaction, every potential movement. Its arrival is a variable that could destabilize alliances, village strategies, even internal power balances. Pain's voice softened slightly. It is intelligent, yes, but it is not omniscient. It observes, but it cannot see every layer of the Shinobi world. There are forces it may underestimate. Humans, with their bonds and instincts, can act unpredictably. Itachi nodded. Which is why we will remain hidden for now. Observation is priority. Understanding the limitations of this being before deciding whether to engage. Outside the hidden walls, the air was calm, but the Akatsuki's senses were tuned to subtle distortions. Loki's threads of magic lingered invisibly, weaving through the forests around the hidden leaf. A shift in the wind, a flicker of light, a bending shadow. Each anomaly was noted, measured, analyzed. It is clever, Itachi said softly. It does not act openly, and yet it leaves traces, patterns, probabilities. Pain's gaze was distant, calculating. Those traces are enough for us. Information is our weapon. Timing, patience, and precision will allow us to control this situation when necessary. Kisame leaned against the wall, watching the two with faint amusement. So, while it toys with the hidden leaf, we prepare for the day it might consider us worthy opponents. Yes, Itachi replied calmly. And that day may come sooner than we expect. This is not a being constrained by human limitations. It will push boundaries, test loyalty, and exploit weaknesses. The Akatsuki must be ready to act decisively. Pain folded his hands. We are patient. We observe. We learn. When the time is right, we strike. And we will strike with certainty, not impulse. Itachi's Sharingan scanned every detail of the room, the map, the energy readings, and even the faintest whispers of residual chakra from the hidden leaf. The hidden leaf is aware of something, but their knowledge is incomplete. That is where we gain advantage. Preparation allows us to anticipate what others cannot. Kisame smirked. I like it. Strategy over brute force makes things more interesting. Itachi's voice was quiet, but firm. This is not a game. It is a threat. And threats like this require patience, precision, and understanding. Pain inclined his head. Agreed. Scouts will monitor. Barriers will be maintained, and we will continue to gather intelligence. The moment we have a complete understanding, we will determine whether engagement is necessary. A hush fell over the hideout. Each member absorbed the weight of the situation. A god had entered their world, not through force, but through subtle manipulation. And the Akatsuki, ever watchful, understood that observation alone would not be enough. It was the beginning of a calculated response. Loki's presence lingered like a shadow beyond the hidden leaf, unseen but not unfelt. And the Akatsuki's gaze turned toward that shadow, patient, alert, ready to act when the time came. The game had begun, and the first moves were already unfolding. Outside the Akatsuki hideout, night had deepened. The mountains surrounding their base were silent, except for the faint whistle of wind threading through the trees. Loki's presence lingered like a ghost, invisible, intangible, but ever probing. Threads of his magic, subtle and precise, brushed the forests and chakra networks surrounding Hidden Leaf. Inside the hideout, Pain and Itachi remained seated at the table, studying maps and reports. The flickering candlelight cast their shadows across the walls, elongating them unnaturally. Kisame leaned casually against the far wall, observing in quiet anticipation. The energy patterns we detected near the Hidden Leaf are inconsistent, Pain said, voice calm but measured. It is not stationary, yet it does not dissipate. It moves with intent, almost as if it is studying the environment. Itachi's Sharingan tracked the invisible threads of chakra disturbance recorded by their scouts. It is adaptive, not random. Each anomaly has purpose. Observation alone is insufficient to predict its next move. But patterns exist, subtle though they may be. Kisame's grin widened faintly. Patterns, huh? Sounds like a puzzle. Do we even know what it wants? Pain's Rinnegan glimmered faintly. We do not. It did not strike directly. Its purpose appears to be observation and analysis. But that is not benign. An intelligent being capable of testing a Uchiha, probing the host of the Nine Tails. It is measuring the balance of power in this world. That is dangerous. Itachi's gaze sharpened. Its intelligence makes it unpredictable, but unpredictability does not equate to omniscience. There are limits to its understanding of chakra and human behavior. That is where we must exploit opportunity. Kisame leaned forward, curiosity gleaming in his eyes. So we wait, we watch, and we learn. No direct confrontation? Exactly, Itachi said quietly. Engagement without full understanding is reckless. We gather information first. Only with knowledge can we decide whether it is threat, opportunity, or both. Pain inclined his head. It moves between the Hidden Leaf and its surroundings with subtlety. But it leaves traces, green threads, minor disruptions in perception. Those traces can be followed, analyzed, and mapped. They are clues to its methods and intent. Itachi traced the lines across their map, overlaying potential paths of movement. It will return. We know that. No being capable of this level of observation acts without curiosity. Our job is to anticipate where it may appear and prepare accordingly. Kisame's grin faded into thoughtful consideration. So, in a sense, we're playing its game. We let it think it is probing, but we are also probing it. Yes, Itachi confirmed. Observation is reciprocal. A god may manipulate perception, but every action it takes reveals a part of itself. Those fragments, when gathered, can form a picture of its strategy, abilities, and limitations. Pain's voice softened, almost contemplative. This is unlike any mission we have undertaken. We are not confronting humans, not confronting rogue shinobi. This is a being capable of transcending the natural limits of our world. Conventional tactics may be insufficient. Itachi's gaze was steady, calculating, which is why preparation, patience, and intelligence are our greatest weapons. The Akatsuki's strength lies not only in combat, but in understanding and strategy. We must apply that fully. From a shadowed corner, a younger Akatsuki member spoke quietly. And what about the hidden leaf? They've already faced this being once. Do we rely on them to engage, or do we intervene first? Pain's Rinnegan glowed faintly. The hidden leaf's response is imperfect. They adapted quickly, yes, but they lack knowledge of the full scope of its power. Our role is to ensure that we are prepared for any outcome, whether the village succeeds or falters. Itachi's voice was quiet, but firm. We observe first. Gather intelligence. Do not act impulsively. When the time comes, we will engage decisively. Anything less is unacceptable. Kisame's grin returned faintly, but his eyes reflected the seriousness of the moment. I understand. Observation first. Strike later. Got it. Pain nodded, leaning back slightly. Scouts will continue monitoring. Barriers will be maintained. Communications with our agents in other villages will be constant. We cannot allow this being to operate unchecked. Itachi's Sharingan glimmered in thought. Every subtle action it takes reveals its logic, its methods, its intent. That is where our advantage lies. If we are patient, we can learn more than it expects and exploit what it leaves unguarded. The room fell silent again, tension heavy but controlled. Every member of the Akatsuki understood the stakes. A god had entered their world, a god capable of observing, adapting, and manipulating. Yet the organization remained composed, disciplined, and prepared to act with precision. Beyond the hidden leaf, green threads of subtle magic lingered into the air, unseen, unfelt by most. Loki was observing, probing, and testing, not the village this time, but the shadows around it. His presence was a ripple in a pond, measured, calculated, almost invisible. And the Akatsuki were already aware. They would watch, they would learn, and when the time was right, they would act. The game had begun. The first moves were unfolding, and far beyond the mountains, the stage was set for an encounter that could change the balance of power across the shinobi world. Days passed in near silence, yet the air around the hidden leaf remained thick with unseen tension. Loki's presence lingered subtly, weaving threads of influence that bent perception without breaking it. Ordinary shinobi felt only vague unease. Anbu reported fleeting distortions in chakra, shadows that seemed to move of their own accord, and subtle illusions that faded before they could be fully comprehended. In the Akatsuki hideout, the members prepared for action. Observation alone had yielded enough anomalies to warrant direct investigation. Pain's Rinnegan scanned maps, focusing on chakra flows and residual distortions. Itachi's Sharingan traced probabilities, overlaying potential movements and reaction patterns. We will deploy scouts, Pain said calmly. 2 operatives will approach the hidden leaf under the guise of reconnaissance. Observe the foreign presence. Intervene only if necessary. Itachi's fingers traced the route. We must be subtle. Detection would alert it. Any premature confrontation could be catastrophic. Loki's power is unlike anything we have previously encountered. The scouts must gather information without engaging directly. Kisami's grin was faint, but sharp. And if it notices us? If it anticipates our moves? Then we adapt, Itachi said without hesitation. The Akatsuki is patient. We do not act impulsively. Observation must be precise. Every movement calculated. Only then can we choose the proper moment to intervene. Scouts were briefed and dispatched under the cover of darkness. Their footsteps were silent, trained instincts guiding them through forests and hills, chakra minimized to avoid detection. Each carried specialized equipment designed to detect irregular energy, residual traces left by Loki's subtle manipulations. Meanwhile, Loki floated unseen above the treetops, green energy threads dancing invisibly along the forest canopy. He had sensed Akatsuki interest, not direct hostility yet, but observation, curiosity. "They watch," he murmured softly, voice barely audible even to the trees themselves. Careful, calculating, but they are still blind to the full extent of reality. A faint smirk crossed his lips. "Perfect. Let them play their games. Let them test what they can see. And I will see what they cannot anticipate." As the Akatsuki scouts approached the outer perimeter of Hidden Leaf, Loki subtly manipulated the forest. Leaves rustled unnaturally, shadows bent in impossible angles, faint illusions flickered across their vision. The scouts paused, instinctively sensing something beyond chakra, something anomalous. "It is here," one whispered, voice tense. "Do you feel it?" "Yes," the other replied, "but it is unlike anything we have sensed before. Not chakra, not energy in the conventional sense. It bends perception." Loki watched silently, threads of green energy brushing past them like invisible fingers, testing reactions, gauging instinct, measuring intent. He did not attack. He did not reveal himself. Instead, he allowed the scouts to experience a fraction of his influence, enough to unsettle, enough to observe how they reacted under uncertainty. Inside the Akatsuki hideout, Pain and Itachi monitored the scouts remotely through subtle chakra links. "Reports indicate faint distortions," Itachi said. "They are minor, but sufficient to disrupt observation. That is consistent with a being who manipulates perception without overt force." Pain's Rinnegan glimmered. "The scouts will continue. It tests them, but it does not strike. That indicates calculation, not malice. It observes, learns, and adapts. That is dangerous in its own way." Kisami's grin returned faintly. "It's toying with them. A god playing with pawns. Interesting." "Yes," Itachi said quietly. "And this is the danger. Its intelligence allows it to exploit gaps in understanding, even within highly trained operatives. The slightest misjudgment could be fatal." Loki, from his perch above the forest, allowed the threads of magic to retreat gradually, letting the scouts regain equilibrium. He observed silently, noting their behavior, their instincts, and the limits of their perception. "They are cautious," he said softly. "Competent, yes, but still bounded by the rules of their world. Fascinating." He vanished briefly, reappearing behind a distant hill to avoid detection, unseen. His influence had already seeded doubt and subtle fear in the scouts' minds, enough to begin shaping their perception without direct confrontation. Back in the Akatsuki hideout, the leaders reviewed reports. Itachi's Sharingan flickered as he traced probabilities. Pain's Rinnegan calculated potential outcomes, and Kisam's grin slowly faded as the seriousness of the situation settled in. "The first contact has been made," Itachi said quietly. "Indirect, subtle, but revealing. We now have a preliminary understanding of its method. Observation, manipulation, subtle influence. No direct attack, but testing nonetheless." Pain's voice was calm, deliberate. This is sufficient. We will continue monitoring. The Akatsuki is not naive. We anticipate, we prepare, we wait. The moment to act will come, and when it does, we will strike decisively. Outside, the forest returned to apparent normalcy. Leaves stilled. Shadows ceased their strange movements. The scouts, unaware of the full scope, reported minor anomalies, yet the seeds of understanding and wariness had been planted. And somewhere beyond the trees, Loki observed, patient, calculating, ever curious. The Akatsuki's interest had been piqued. The game had advanced from observation to interaction. The stage was set, and the true battle of strategy, perception, and power was about to escalate. The hidden eyes of the Akatsuki and the God of Mischief now faced each other across a veil of shadows and perception, each testing, each learning, each preparing for the inevitable confrontation. The threads of fate had begun to intertwine, and the Shinobi world would never be the same. The air above the hidden leaf was charged with a tension that even the most seasoned shinobi could feel in their bones. The subtle disturbances in chakra, the inexplicable distortions in perception, and the faint threads of energy that could not be classified as chakra, all pointed to a presence unlike anything the village had encountered. In the heart of the village, within the protective walls of the Uchiha compound, Sasuke sat in meditation. His Sharingan had been tested to its limits by the encounter with Loki, and even now, the residual strain lingered. Susanoo had dissipated, leaving his body exhausted, but his mind was sharper than ever. Every reflection, every illusion, every impossible angle he had faced in that crystalline battlefield replayed in his mind, teaching him lessons no ordinary training could provide. A subtle tremor passed through the village. Not a quake of the earth, but a ripple in chakra, faint yet undeniable. Sasuke's eyes opened slowly, the red glow of his Sharingan cutting through the dim light of the room. His instincts screamed, a premonition that something or someone was approaching. Not again, he muttered under his breath. I can feel it. The disturbance. Outside the village gates, in the depths of the forest, Loki observed silently. He floated above the treetops, his green energy threads brushing against the natural flow of the hidden leaf's chakra. He had been intrigued by the Akatsuki's subtle interference, their attempts to study him, and their carefully laid traps. But another presence had caught his attention, one far more primal, far more dangerous. The Nine-Tails stirred within Naruto. For weeks, its chakra had been simmering, restless. Loki's subtle manipulations of perception and probability had not gone unnoticed by the tailed beast. It sensed something foreign, something powerful, and something playful. Its curiosity matched only by its rage. Naruto, unaware of Loki's observation from a distance, was training outside the village. He leapt over trees, sending shadow clones to intercept the spinning wind and the fluttering leaves, testing his control over the Nine-Tails chakra. Every movement was precise, calculated, but even in this practice, he felt an unease that he could not place. The wind shifted, leaves rustled unnaturally, shadows bent in impossible angles. Naruto froze mid-stride, sensing something just beyond perception, a presence that made the hair on his arms stand. Kurama, he whispered, feeling the beast's chakra surge. Something's here. Loki smiled faintly, unseen, observing from a distance. Ah, the infamous Nine-Tails, he murmured. So vast, so volatile, so deliciously unpredictable, and yet connected to that boy. Curious, dangerous, fascinating. With barely a movement, Loki descended closer. threads of green magic brushing the edge of Naruto's chakra without revealing themselves. He was careful, testing, measuring, observing. The Ninetales reacted instantly, its chakra flaring violently, sensing the foreign presence, detecting the impossible alterations in probability and perception that Loki carried. Naruto's eyes widened. "Kurama, what is it? Can you feel it?" The tailed beast's rage boiled, yet it was restrained. Loki had not attacked. He had merely appeared, subtly, manipulating the battlefield of perception without revealing himself. The Ninetales roared internally, sending a tremor of chakra that rattled the surrounding trees. "Interesting," Loki whispered softly. "A creature of pure instinct and power, bound to a boy, a living weapon, and yet a mind capable of learning, adapting, perfect." Naruto's body tensed as he instinctively formed hand seals, readying a shadow clone technique to investigate the disturbance. But before he could act, Loki's presence shifted, threads of magic twisting subtly around the clones, warping space just enough to confuse perception. Naruto's clones stumbled, misstepped, and momentarily phased out of synchronization. The Ninetales growled, sensing the trickery. Its chakra pulsed around Naruto like a living aura of fire, black and red intertwining, threatening to burst beyond control. "Easy, Kurama," Naruto whispered, sweat forming at his brow. "It's not attacking. At least not yet." Loki hovered closer, curiosity deepening. A child of fire, fury, and connection, and yet restrained, intriguing. It does not lash out recklessly. It calculates. It tests. It chooses carefully when to act. Naruto's shadow clones reformed, and he leapt higher, scanning the treetops, the surrounding forest, and the invisible threads of distortion that only a trained instinct could sense. The Ninetales chakra coiled around him protectively, sensing both threat and amusement in the unseen presence above. "Who are you?" Naruto shouted, voice firm, defiant. "Show yourself!" Loki chuckled, a sound like wind through glass, distant yet close. "Ah, such fire, such defiance. How delightful!" The Ninetales roared, reacting to the playful tone, sending a pulse of chakra that warped the space around them. Trees bent unnaturally, the forest floor cracked slightly, and shadows elongated in impossible angles. Loki flitted just beyond reach, dancing through the threads of perception he had woven, untouched by chakra, untouchable by raw force. Naruto's eyes glimmered with determination. "Kurama, get ready. Whoever this is, we'll face them together." The Ninetales surged, the beast's chakra flaring and enveloping Naruto, shifting the color of the sky with its immense energy. Loki's eyes glinted green, reflecting both amusement and interest. He had found a living challenge far greater than Sasuke alone, a force of instinct, rage, and raw power, bound to a human host who could rival gods in resilience and unpredictability. "Perfect," Loki whispered softly. "Let us dance, Ninetales. Let us see how chaos and instinct intertwine." The forest trembled as the stage was set. The God of Mischief and the Ninetales, bound to Naruto, preparing for an encounter that would challenge perception, instinct, and power beyond anything the Shinobi world had ever known. And in that moment, Loki understood something essential. This was no mere battle of strength. It was a test, a game of wills, perception, and instinct. The first moves had begun, and the consequences would ripple far beyond the hidden leaf. The forest trembled under the raw power of the Ninetales chakra, the red and black energy swirling around Naruto like a living storm. Trees bent and snapped under the invisible force, leaves and earth whipping into chaotic spirals. Loki hovered just beyond the treetops, observing with amusement as the beast's instinctive fury and Naruto's growing control interwove into a singular, unpredictable force. Ah, such primal power, Loki murmured, his voice soft yet carrying across the subtle vibrations of the forest. Raw, untamed, yet bound. Fascinating. He extended a hand, green energy threads shimmering faintly, dancing around the edges of the Nine-Tails chakra. They did not attack directly, but probed, teasing, testing the limits of both the beast and its host. Each thread twisted probability, nudging the tailed beast's reactions in ways neither Naruto nor Kurama could predict fully. Naruto leapt high, chakra surging, preparing to strike, but the moment his foot left the ground, space itself seemed to bend. Loki had shifted subtly, making it appear as though the forest stretched infinitely, the trees rearranging in impossible angles. Naruto landed, instinctively sensing the manipulation, and the Nine-Tails let out a growl that rattled the surrounding forest. "Kurama, stay focused," Naruto shouted. "I know you feel it. Something's messing with us." The beast's eyes glowed with fiery intelligence. Its chakra flared outward, detecting the subtle threads of Loki's magic. A mixture of instinctive perception and analytical fury. Its tails twitched as it coiled around Naruto, shielding him, almost as if aware that this opponent was not to be fought conventionally. Loki chuckled softly, almost musical in tone. "Oh, such spirit! You do not lash out blindly. And yet your power surges in every instinctive motion, predictable, yet unpredictable, delightful." Naruto's shadow clones surged forward, leaping to intercept what he assumed were attacks from the Trickster god. But the clones faltered, shifting mid-air in subtle ways that betrayed Loki's manipulation. Each clone reacted slightly differently, confused by probabilities warped against them, forcing Naruto to expend chakra to stabilize them. "Damn it," Naruto exclaimed, landing roughly on a moss-covered boulder. "He's messing with our senses. Kurama, can you feel it? Can you sense what's real?" The Nine-Tails roared in acknowledgement, its chakra flaring violently, creating a shield of red and black that extended far beyond Naruto's body. The forest itself seemed to shiver under the sheer volume of energy, yet Loki remained untouched, floating just beyond the edges of perception. "Ah, yes," Loki whispered, green threads dancing around him like invisible instruments. The fusion of instinct and will, a living weapon, yet a mind capable of learning. Impressive, more than I expected from a mere human vessel. Naruto's eyes narrowed, his determination blazing brighter. He leapt forward, shadow clones spinning in tandem, forming a protective circle around him. "Kurama, we move together. We can't let him toy with us." The Nine-Tails chakra surged, responding to Naruto's will. The black and red energy formed a dense, protective aura around the young shinobi, coiling and flexing as though alive, ready to strike or defend on instinct alone. Loki tilted his head, examining the beast with fascination. "You are unpredictable," he said softly. "Your reactions are instinctive, yet tempered by the human mind. That combination makes you rare. Perhaps the rarest yet." Suddenly, Loki shifted. In an instant, he appeared above the treetops, then behind Naruto, then in multiple reflections simultaneously, images of himself dancing along the edges of the Nine-Tails perception. Every movement tested the beast, nudging it into micro-reactions that revealed patterns in instinct, aggression, and control. Naruto realized immediately what was happening. "Kurama, he's testing us. Watch the patterns. Don't fall for it." The Nine-Tails responded with calculated force, its massive chakra extending outward in a wave that bent space slightly, pushing Loki's illusions to the edges. Yet, despite its raw power, the God of Mischief remained untouched. Every feint, every misdirection, every warp in perception was calculated, feeding information back to Loki. Naruto's body moved instinctively, shadow clones intercepting phantom threads, while the Nine-Tails chakra flared protectively. The Trickster god was not attacking in the conventional sense. He was probing, learning, adapting, gauging the limits of both host and beast. Loki's green eyes glimmered faintly. Ah, such beauty in chaos, such beauty in instinct and will intertwined. You are far more than I anticipated. Perhaps this will be entertaining. Naruto landed on a cliff's edge, exhausted but resolute. We're not going to let you control us. Kurama, together, we'll show him what it means to fight back. The Nine-Tails roared in agreement, its chakra surging outward, bending the wind, shaking the earth, creating a storm of raw energy that even Loki had to observe carefully. This was no longer mere manipulation. It was a confrontation of wills, instinct against intellect, raw fury against calculated chaos. Finally, Loki murmured, a soft laugh escaping his lips. Now the game begins in earnest. Instinct against strategy, rage against calculation. Delightful. Let us see how far you can push your limits. Nine-Tails, Naruto. The stage was set. The Trickster god and the Nine-Tails were now fully aware of each other. Their battle, a complex dance of perception, instinct, and unpredictable power. And the hidden leaf, unaware of the magnitude of what had begun, held its breath, waiting for the storm that was about to reshape everything they knew about power, gods, and the very nature of combat itself. The storm of chakra swirled violently around Naruto and the Nine-Tails, twisting the forest into chaotic spirals of leaves, branches, and earth. Yet Loki remained untouched, a calm, calculating observer amidst the chaos. His green energy threads danced around them, subtle but precise, probing weaknesses in perception and instinct rather than striking with raw force. Ah, the fusion of human will and beastly instinct, Loki whispered softly. So powerful yet so predictable. How fascinating. Naruto's eyes blazed with determination. Kurama, focus. Don't let him manipulate us. Every instinct, every move. Watch him closely. The Nine-Tails surged in response, its massive chakra extending outward, forming a protective dome around Naruto. Yet Loki's illusions began to twist even that defense. Green threads nudged at the edges of the chakra barrier, bending probability in small increments. Shadow clones flickered, phasing in and out, reacting to threats that were not truly there. Naruto's body moved on instinct, coordinating with the Nine-Tails, countering the subtle manipulations. But Loki was relentless, probing the limits of their reactions. Every feint, every slight bend of perception, every micro-adjustment in response fed him information, patterns, instincts, and limitations. You struggle to maintain control, Loki murmured, observing the flowing chakra with fascination. Yet your mind adapts, slowly, but it adapts. How very human, and therefore, how intriguing. Naruto's voice was firm. We're not giving up. We'll adapt to whatever you throw at us. The Nine-Tails chakra pulsed violently, black and red tendrils lashing outward, not to attack Loki directly, but to counteract the distortions in perception he was weaving. Trees snapped, rocks split, and the wind howled as the force of raw instinct collided with calculated manipulation. Suddenly, Loki shifted, He appeared directly in front of Naruto, only to vanish and reappear behind him in the same instant, then split into multiple illusions hovering above the forest. "You are reactive," Loki observed. "All instinct, all defense. Fascinating, but insufficient. Let us test the limits." The illusions multiplied, each slightly different, each bending space and probability in subtle ways. Naruto reacted instinctively, shadow designed to intercept attacks. Yet the Trickster god's manipulations were not attacks, they were tests. Each movement forced Naruto and Kurama to reveal patterns in instinct, tendencies in decision-making, and the interplay of human will with beastly rage. "Kurama, stay sharp, don't fall for his tricks," Naruto shouted. The nine tails coiled protectively, tendrils of chakra flaring and twisting, responding both to threat and to instinct. Loki's energy threads brushed against them, teasing, nudging, but never striking directly. The beast growled, sensing a foe beyond mere combat, a mind dancing on the edges of possibility. Loki tilted his head, observing the fusion of instinct and intellect with amusement. Ah, the infamous nine tails. Not just fury, but awareness. Not just instinct, but calculation. Perfect. This is exactly what I seek. A challenge that cannot be solved by raw power alone. Naruto's clones faltered under subtle manipulations, phantom attacks, warped space, slightly altered probabilities. Yet each clone's disruption was corrected by Naruto's instinctive recalibration, showing both human adaptability and Kurama's responsiveness. "You're testing us," Naruto realized aloud, his eyes narrowing. "You're not attacking, you want to see how far we can push ourselves." Loki's smile was faint, mischievous. Precisely, a game of perception, instinct, and will. How much can a human and a beast adapt when reality itself bends around them? The nine tails responded, tendrils of chakra twisting, pushing, striking, yet not harming, forcing Naruto to adapt in tandem. The forest around them became a playground of probability, illusions, and raw power. Trees bent and warped, shadows stretched unnaturally, and the earth trembled with the flowing energy of a force both primal and calculated. Naruto's chest heaved. Sweat dripped down his forehead. "Kurama, we can do this. We've trained for control. We've trained for chaos. We'll adapt." The nine tails' roar shook the forest, a deep, resonant sound that vibrated with both fury and awareness. Loki observed every pulse, every micro-adjustment in instinct, noting the precision with which the beast and host reacted to his manipulations. "You are more than I anticipated," Loki admitted softly. "Most mortals cannot adapt so quickly. Most beasts cannot learn so consciously. Yet here, instinct and intellect, intertwine. Delightful." The forest trembled violently as Naruto coordinated with Kurama, forming a strategy that responded not only to physical distortions, but to manipulations of probability and perception. Shadow clones moved in patterns designed to counter Loki's illusions, while Kurama's chakra shifted dynamically, reacting instinctively yet with remarkable coordination. "Enough," Loki finally said, his voice echoing across the trees, calm yet commanding. "Show me, Nine Tails, human vessel, what you can do when pushed to the edge." The storm of chakra surged higher, red and black energy flaring to a blinding intensity. Leaves, rocks, and earth spiraled into the air. Shadow clones moved in perfect synchronization, guided by Naruto's instinct and Kurama's awareness, and Loki observed, tested, and smiled, knowing that he had finally drawn forth the full combination of human will and tailed beast instinct. The first stage of the confrontation was over. The Trickster god had tested their limits, and the Nine Tails had responded in kind. But this was only the beginning. The real challenge, the dance of perception, instinct, and chaos, was about to escalate. The forest trembled with the sheer force of chakra and magic intertwining, the air thick with energy that defied normal perception. Naruto and the Nine-Tails had stabilized themselves after Loki's initial tests, but both were acutely aware that the Trickster god had not yet revealed the full extent of his capabilities. Every movement, every breath, every shift of the leaves around them carried subtle distortions, alterations in probability, slight warping of space, and the faint hum of Loki's magical threads probing their limits. Naruto's shadow clones formed a protective circle, constantly shifting to anticipate invisible threats, while the Nine-Tails Chakra roared around him, flaring in waves that bent the forest itself. Yet Loki's green energy threads wove through the chaos, undetected yet omnipresent, touching the very edges of reality. "You've learned to respond," Loki said softly, his voice echoing through the vibrations in the forest. "But learning is only the beginning. Let's see how far you can adapt when even perception itself is unreliable." In the blink of an eye, the Trickster god's magic fractured reality in subtle but devastating ways. The forest appeared to split into multiple overlapping layers, trees duplicated, shadows moved independently, and the ground seemed to ripple beneath Naruto's feet. Shadow clones collided with phantom obstacles, and even the Nine-Tails hesitated, its instincts momentarily conflicted by the impossible shifts in probability. "Kurama!" Naruto shouted, leaping through a warped forest floor that seemed to twist beneath him. "Focus! Don't let him manipulate your instincts." The Nine-Tails responded, flaring its chakra outward in a protective wave. The energy ripped through the forest, snapping trees and sending boulders spinning, yet Loki remained untouched, laughing softly at the chaos. "Ah, finally," Loki whispered, green eyes glinting. "Instinct against intellect, raw power against manipulation. The balance of chaos is shifting perfectly." Naruto's body moved instinctively, coordinating with Kurama, adapting to the fracturing illusions and subtle shifts in probability. Shadow clones reformed in midair, countering phantom attacks, while the Nine-Tails Chakra adjusted dynamically, striking preemptively at threats before they fully materialized. "You're learning fast," Loki admitted, drifting above them, his presence a shadow that flickered at the edges of vision. "But even the most disciplined mind and the sharpest instinct have limits. Let's see how far yours extend." In an instant, Loki struck, not with brute force but with precision. Probability warped around Naruto, turning even the simplest movements into complex challenges. Rocks that should have fallen straight twisted in midair. Shadows moved contrary to light, and chakra paths became labyrinths of conflicting signals. Naruto's eyes widened, struggling to maintain synchronization with Kurama. This is impossible!" he shouted. "Kurama, we have to keep moving. Trust me." The Nine-Tails surged, chakra tendrils lashing outward, responding to instinct and the subtle guidance of Naruto's will. The forest was now a storm of energy, illusions, and probability, each wave of chakra countering Loki's manipulations, yet never fully overcoming them. Loki laughed softly, a sound both musical and terrifying. Delightful, such fury, such adaptation, yet so human, so constrained. Let's push a little further. With a subtle movement of his hands, Loki bent space, making the forest itself appear endless. Trees stretched beyond the horizon, shadow clones became infinite, and the Nine-Tails Chakra seemed to meet resistance where none existed. Naruto's balance faltered momentarily, his body twisting instinctively to maintain control. "Kurama, now!" Naruto yelled, sending the Nine-Tails Chakra in a focused, controlled surge. The energy cut through the warped illusions, stabilizing the immediate area. The shadow clones reformed in perfect synchronization, and the forest appeared to settle, if only temporarily. Loki floated above, observing, intrigued. Ah, resilience, persistence, adaptation. Very well, let's escalate. The trickster god extended his hands, green threads cascading outward in a symphony of manipulation. Time seemed to slow in pockets of the forest. Probabilities shifted unpredictably, and perception fractured further. The Nine-Tails growled, pushing its chakra outward like a tidal wave, countering each subtle warp with instinctive precision. Naruto leapt into the center of the chaos, shadow clones surrounding him, chakra flaring violently. Kurama, we've got to take control. Focus everything on keeping reality stable. The tailed beast's eyes glowed, responding in perfect harmony with Naruto. Its chakra twisted and coiled. Phantom threads of manipulation before they could fully manifest. Trees that had bent impossibly snapped back. Rocks that had warped returned to their natural course, and shadows realigned with their light sources. Loki tilted his head, green eyes narrowing slightly. Impressive, more than I expected. Your bond, your synchronization, it is rare. But even bonds like this can be tested, strained, and broken. Under true pressure, with a subtle flick, Loki shifted the fabric of the battlefield entirely. Shadows moved independently, light warped, and the flow of chakra around Naruto and Kurama became inconsistent, unpredictable, and chaotic. Shadow clones collided and phased out of existence temporarily. Naruto's movements felt delayed and exaggerated, and even the Nine-Tails hesitated, uncertain of how to react to a reality that no longer obeyed its instincts. Naruto gritted his teeth, sweat pouring down his face. Kurama, we can't falter. Focus on each other. Trust instinct. Trust will. We'll push through this. The Nine-Tails roared, chakra flaring to a blinding intensity, wrapping around Naruto and forming a protective cocoon. Every distortion, every manipulation, every warp in perception was met with instinctive countermeasures guided by human will. Loki hovered above, smiling faintly. Ah, exquisite. Chaos tempered by will. Fury guided by intellect. This is why I came. To see the limits of instinct and strategy collide in perfect opposition. The forest shook violently, wind and energy spiraling in uncontrolled arcs. Shadow clones moved with perfect precision. Naruto leapt and countered, and the Nine-Tails chakra responded dynamically, keeping the trickster god at bay without direct confrontation. For the first time, Loki felt a flicker of genuine challenge, not just from raw power, but from the combination of instinct, intelligence, and unbreakable bond between host and beast. Finally, Loki whispered softly, amusement and respect blending in his tone. Let the true game begin. The battle had escalated from subtle manipulation to full-scale confrontation, a dance of chaos and instinct, strategy and raw fury. And as the sun began to rise over the hidden leaf, casting light on the twisted forest, it became clear the encounter between the Nine-Tails and the trickster god was far from over. It was only beginning. The battlefield had become a surreal nightmare where perception, probability, and raw power collided in unpredictable ways. The hidden leaf lay at the center of the chaos, its streets distorted, buildings subtly warped, and the air thick with green threads of Loki's magic, bending reality itself. Shadow clones darted across the village, attempting to protect civilians and strategic points, but even they faltered under the trickster god's manipulations. Naruto and the Nine-Tails moved together as a single force, coiling, striking, and countering. The tailed beast's chakra surged outward like a living storm, snapping trees, tearing through fractured terrain, and pushing back at Loki's distortions. Yet the God of Mischief slipped through each defense, phasing between impossible angles, teasing and testing rather than attacking outright. Kurama, keep moving. Watch the distortions, Naruto shouted, leaping over a building that bent unnaturally beneath them. Shadow clones formed a protective perimeter, intercepting illusions and phantom attacks. We can't let him isolate any part of the village. Loki's voice echoed around them, playful and unnervingly calm. Ah, the struggle to maintain order within chaos. Delightful. Such raw fury, and yet restrained by will. A balance most mortals cannot comprehend. Above the village, the Akatsuki observed silently. Pain hovered with his Rinnegan glowing, Itachi's Sharingan tracing every distortion, and Kisame's grin faintly visible even in the shadows. This is no ordinary threat, Itachi said quietly. Loki is manipulating the battlefield on a level beyond conventional chakra. Even the Nine Tails, as powerful as it is, must adapt constantly. Any miscalculation could be catastrophic. Pain nodded, voice calm but firm. We must intervene tactically, observe, prepare, and strike. Only when the opportunity guarantees maximum effectiveness, impulse will be punished. Kisame tilted his head, eyes gleaming. So, we wait and watch while gods and shinobi duke it out? Fun. Let me know when it's my turn. Back in the village, Loki's presence became more aggressive, yet still subtle. He no longer simply warped perception. He began manipulating space, bending the forest, streets, and buildings to his will. A street that once led to a checkpoint now twisted into a corridor that did not exist, disorienting clones and civilians alike. Naruto leapt across a fractured rooftop, chakra flaring as he coordinated with the Nine Tails. Kurama, I've got an idea. If we focus our chakra, maybe we can stabilize a section of the village and give the clones a foothold. The Nine Tails roared in agreement, coiling its massive tails to form a protective barrier around key points. Its chakra surged outward, cutting through Loki's threads, pushing back at the warping reality. The combined force of Naruto's will and the beast's instinct created small pockets of stability amidst the chaos. Loki tilted his head, impressed despite himself. Ah, adaptability and resilience. Fascinating. You are learning far faster than expected. But even resilience has limits. Suddenly, Loki struck with precision. Green threads of energy lanced forward, targeting weak points in Naruto and Kurama's synchronization. The forest and streets around them rippled, shadows became solid, and even the Nine Tails chakra barriers shuddered under the manipulation. Shadow clones were tossed in multiple directions, some disappearing entirely, phasing out of existence temporarily. Naruto gritted his teeth. Kurama, hold together. Don't let him break the link. The Nine Tails surged violently, chakra flaring in every direction. Trees snapped, boulders split, and the streets of the Hidden Leaf warped back into position as the beast's instinctive power corrected Loki's subtle distortions. From the Akatsuki's vantage point, Pain observed, calculating. They are stabilizing a portion of the battlefield, but their focus is limited. If we act strategically, we could flank Loki while he is engaged with them. But any misstep, we could be annihilated. Itachi's eyes narrowed, analyzing probability. He is not attacking directly, but every manipulation is a potential trap. If we overextend, even for a single moment, Loki will exploit it. We must act with precision. Kisame's grin grew. Finally, some real action. Gods, beasts, and shinobi all in play. About time. Meanwhile, Loki observed Naruto and Kurama, noting how the bond between human and beast allowed them to adapt in real time. He smiled faintly, green threads swirling around him. So resilient, so clever, yet still bound by rules. Very well, let's escalate the challenge. With barely a motion, Loki fractured the battlefield further. Buildings and trees duplicated and overlapped, shadows moved independently, and time itself seemed to flicker in small areas. Shadow clones stumbled and phased. Naruto's movements felt delayed in small increments, and the Nine Tails hesitated momentarily, unsure whether to strike or defend. "Kurama! Focus on me, not the illusions," Naruto shouted. "We adapt together. We push forward." The tailed beast's chakra coiled around Naruto protectively, lashing outward to cut through the illusions. The synchronization between host and beast intensified, countering Loki's manipulations and creating small zones of stability. Yet the trickster god's threads probed relentlessly, testing the limits of both instinct and intellect. Ah, the dance of gods and mortals, Loki whispered softly. So much chaos, so much order, so much potential. The war of gods and shinobi had entered its second stage. No longer subtle, no longer merely manipulative. The battlefield itself was alive with energy, probability, and raw power. And at its center stood Naruto and Kurama, facing a god whose amusement was deadly, a god whose curiosity demanded challenge, and a god whose strategy could bend reality itself. The sky above the hidden leaf had darkened unnaturally, clouds swirling in chaotic patterns as if reality itself were unraveling. The previous disturbances, subtle yet unnerving, had now escalated into a full-scale anomaly. Birds scattered in panicked flocks, rivers seemed to ripple against the natural flow, and the distant mountains trembled faintly under forces neither mortal nor shinobi could fully comprehend. From beyond the village, Loki observed silently, his green eyes glinting with curiosity and amusement. His threads of magic, previously subtle and manipulative, now pulsed with raw energy. He had tested the Nine Tails, probed Naruto, and assessed the Akatsuki's interest. Now, the stage was set for the confrontation he had sought, a war not just of power, but of perception, strategy, and cosmic influence. Ah, this world, Loki murmured softly, voice barely audible over the howling wind. So full of rules, yet so fragile under a touch of chaos. Let's see how they handle the dance of gods and mortals. Inside the hidden leaf, shinobi scrambled to assess the source of the anomalies. Anbu units patrolled the outer borders, their senses heightened, scanning for any signs of intrusion or chakra irregularity. Reports of distortions were flooding in, buildings subtly shifting in perspective, shadows stretching impossibly, and chakra fluctuations beyond any known pattern. "Sensei," one Anbu reported, "the energy. It's not from any rogue shinobi, it's different, impossible to quantify." The Hokage, Naruto's predecessor, acting as advisor in his absence, frowned, eyes narrowing. "Impossible, you say? Then we must prepare for anything. Alert all units, focus on containment, and be ready to evacuate civilians if needed. Whatever this is, it's beyond conventional attack." Meanwhile, in the forests outside the village, the Akatsuki mobilized. Pain, Itachi, and Kisame had gathered intelligence from their scouts and confirmed the presence of the trickster god. "It has escalated," Pain observed, Rinnegan glowing faintly. "The hidden leaf is aware of anomalies, but they do not understand the scale. If we do not act cautiously, even our intervention could be disastrous." Itachi's Sharingan glimmered in thought. This is no longer a mere test or probe. Loki is engaging actively, altering the battlefield itself. Our forces must account not only for his power, but also for the unpredictable responses of the Nine Tails and Naruto. We cannot risk underestimating him. Kisame's grin was faint but sharp. "So, A battle of gods in Shinobi. About time things got interesting. Interesting, Itachi corrected quietly. Deadly, yes, but not interesting. Every misstep could lead to catastrophic loss. The forest surrounding the village became the epicenter of the war. Trees bent unnaturally, rivers flowed backward in localized currents, and the ground fractured in impossible patterns. Loki, hovering above the chaos, manipulated the battlefield like a masterful conductor, bending reality, perception, and probability in ways that tested the limits of both shinobi and natural law. Naruto and the Nine Tails surged outward, their combined chakra forming a protective dome over the village. Shadow clones moved strategically, defending key points, while the tailed beast's power extended in waves that warped the environment, but also countered some of Loki's distortions. "You can't just twist reality endlessly," Naruto shouted, leaping over a forest rift created by Loki's manipulation. "We'll fight back, together, Kurama." The Nine Tails roared in agreement, chakra coiling and flexing, lashing at invisible threads, striking at probability itself. Yet Loki remained untouched, almost teasing them, slipping through gaps between perception and reality with perfect grace. From another vantage point, Pain and Itachi observed the battlefield. "Their combined strength is impressive," Itachi said, watching the dynamic between host and beast. But Loki is not engaging conventionally. He is exploiting perception, manipulating probability, and using space itself as a weapon. Any direct confrontation could be catastrophic for either side. Pain nodded. "We will intervene only if necessary. The moment Loki focuses directly on our forces, we strike. Until then, observation and preparation remain our strategy." Kisame's grin broadened. "Sounds like fun, though. Gods and monsters, chaos and fury. Finally, a battle worth my attention." Meanwhile, Loki's voice drifted across the battlefield, soft but carrying a thrill. "Ah, look at them. Chaos and order. Instinct and will. Gods and mortals intertwined. How delicious. Let the war begin in earnest." The forest itself seemed to respond to his words. Trees twisted, shadows stretched to impossible lengths, and the air shimmered with a green energy that bent perception. Even the most experienced shinobi in the village felt disoriented, some faltering in their movements, unsure if what they saw was real or illusion. Naruto narrowed his eyes. "Kurama, they're struggling too. But we can't let him overwhelm the village. Focus. We control what we can. We adapt to what we can't." The Nine Tails responded, chakra flaring violently, forming protective barriers around the village perimeter, while Naruto coordinated shadow clones in precise countermeasures. Yet Loki's green threads of magic brushed past every defense, testing limits, probing for weaknesses. Suddenly, Loki shifted, appearing simultaneously above the hidden leaf and among the surrounding forests, phasing between reality and illusion. The ground quaked, and shadows fractured violently. "Now," Loki whispered, eyes gleaming, "the true game begins." The war of gods and shinobi had officially erupted. The hidden leaf trembled under the magnitude of the battle. Buildings groaned as they twisted slightly, streets bent in impossible angles, and rivers surged unnaturally through the village, defying gravity in small, chaotic streams. Shadow clones darted between debris, attempting to protect civilians, but even their trained instincts were tested to the limit. Every step Naruto and Kurama took seemed to ripple across reality, echoing Loki's manipulations in waves that distorted perception and space itself. Loki hovered above the center of the chaos, his green eyes glinting with anticipation. Threads of energy streamed from his hands like glowing spiderwebs, subtle yet devastatingly precise. He didn't strike with brute force. He didn't need to. Every motion, every warp in space, every probabilistic twist was a calculated move in a game of perception and instinct. Ah, the dance of gods and mortals, Loki murmured, voice soft yet carrying across the distorted forest. So much chaos, so much fury. And yet they cling to order, instinct, entwined with will, deliciously fragile. Naruto's shadow clones moved to counter impossible attacks, phantoms that flickered in and out, rocks that twisted midair, and debris that seemed to fall in unpredictable patterns. Kurama's massive chakra coiled protectively, striking at distortions before they fully manifested. "Kurama, focus on me!" Naruto shouted, leaping across a warped rooftop. "We can't let him isolate any part of the village." The Nine Tails responded instantly, chakra flaring outward like a storm, creating barriers of red and black energy that stabilized sections of the environment. Trees snapped back into place, rubble shifted back into alignment, and illusionary debris vanished before it could reach Naruto. But Loki was relentless. With a flick of his wrist, he fractured reality further. Time itself seemed to lag in microseconds, shadows moved independently, and probability loops created phantom attacks that could strike from multiple directions at once. Shadow clones phased unpredictably, and even Kurama hesitated for a moment, uncertain of how to act within a battlefield that bent the rules of existence. "Not yet. We can do this," Naruto shouted, forming hand seals rapidly. "Kurama, synchronize with me. Trust instinct, trust will." The Nine Tails chakra flared violently, forming a cocoon of energy around Naruto. Every manipulation Loki attempted was countered by instinct and will combined, creating small islands of stability in a battlefield of chaos. Above them, the Akatsuki watched. Pain's Rinnegan analyzed the battlefield, calculating potential outcomes. Itachi's Sharingan traced probabilities with precision, observing how Loki manipulated the environment and how Naruto and Kurama adapted. Kisame, as ever, grinned faintly at the spectacle. "This is far beyond anything we've faced," Itachi said quietly. "Loki's manipulation of perception and probability is on a godly scale. Even the Nine Tails instinct cannot fully counter him alone. Their synchronization is impressive, but any direct interference from Akatsuki could disrupt it entirely." Pain nodded. "We must wait for the right opportunity. Strike too early and Loki will exploit the misstep. Strike too late and the village may be destroyed. Patience and precision are required." Kisame's grin widened. "Patience is boring. I prefer jumping in and seeing the chaos unfold firsthand." Back on the battlefield, Loki's green threads began lacing through the air like intricate patterns, touching multiple points at once. Space folded slightly, forcing Naruto and Kurama to adjust their movement instinctively. Shadow clones collided with illusions, phasing out momentarily, while debris twisted midair in impossible arcs. Naruto's determination blazed like fire. "Kurama, push through it! We've survived worse. We adapt, we fight, and we protect the village." The Nine Tails roared, its chakra exploding outward in a protective wave, countering Loki's manipulations. The storm of energy was immense, bending the forest and the village streets back into partial alignment, giving Naruto room to maneuver. Loki's smile widened faintly. Ah, resilience, adaptation, persistence. This is exactly what I hope to see. But how far can you truly push? With a sudden surge, Loki phased simultaneously into multiple points around the battlefield. In one moment, he was above the village. In the next, he appeared among broken trees in the forest. Then, behind Naruto in a whisper of impossible movement, probability warped around him, making it nearly impossible to predict his next position. Naruto's eyes narrowed. He's everywhere and nowhere. Kurama, we have to react instinctively, move as one. The nine tails coiled, chakra lashing outward, striking at every warped thread of space and illusion. Shadow clones moved in perfect coordination, adapting to the fracturing battlefield in real time. Ah, finally, Loki murmured, a faint laugh escaping. The true test begins. Instinct, will, and fury, all intertwined. Let's see what happens when the limits are pushed, beyond all expectation. The sky darkened further, green threads of Loki's magic shimmering across clouds as the hidden leaf trembled beneath the impending full-scale war. And in that moment, the Trickster God, the Nine Tails, Naruto, and the Akatsuki all braced for the true clash, the moment when gods and shinobi would collide with devastating consequences. The air above the hidden leaf quivered as if reality itself were holding its breath. Loki, now fully engaged, stretched his green threads of magic outward like a web spanning the entire battlefield. The sky rippled with energy, clouds twisting unnaturally, casting strange shadows over the village. Every structure, tree, and path seemed to bend under the Trickster God's influence, warping both perception and probability. Naruto and Kurama surged forward together, their combined chakra radiating in waves that stabilized pockets of the village. Shadow clones moved in perfect unison, intercepting illusions and phantom attacks, while the Nine Tails' tails coiled to strike at distorted threads of reality before they could manifest fully. Yet even their extraordinary coordination could not counter the full scale of Loki's manipulations. Kurama, stay sharp. We have to protect the village, Naruto shouted, dodging a street that folded upward like a broken ribbon of wood and stone. Shadow clones intercepted falling debris, while the Nine Tails' massive chakra coiled around the area, striking at anomalies. Loki's voice rang softly through the chaos, simultaneously everywhere and nowhere. Ah, resilience, ingenuity, and fury, all intertwined. Fascinating. But let's see how far you can truly go. With a subtle gesture, Loki fractured the battlefield further. Buildings duplicated in overlapping layers, trees bent impossibly, shadows became solid, and even the flow of time stuttered in microseconds in localized areas. Shadow clones collided, some phasing out entirely, while Naruto and Kurama adapted instinctively, countering each impossible distortion. From above, the Akatsuki prepared to intervene. Pain's Rinnegan scanned the battlefield, calculating the precise moment when Loki might overextend. Itachi's Sharingan analyzed probability shifts, while Kisame floated slightly above the treetops, grinning in anticipation. This is beyond anything we've faced, Itachi said quietly. His manipulation of perception and reality is godlike. Even the Nine Tails' instinct and Naruto's will cannot fully counter him alone. Any premature attack could doom us all. Pain nodded. We strike only when certain. Until then, observation and containment. One wrong move and the battlefield becomes a death trap for everyone. Kisame's grin widened. Finally, a real fight. Gods, monsters, and shinobi colliding. This is what I live for. Back in the heart of the chaos, Loki intensified his assault, not by direct attack, but by twisting probability and perception at multiple layers simultaneously. Shadow clones were thrown into phantom obstacles, time fractured in micro-moments, and debris fell in impossible trajectories. The Nine Tails' chakra roared, stabilizing the battlefield with instinctive precision, while Naruto adapted, countering illusions in real time. Kurama pushed through it. We've survived worse, Naruto shouted. Trust instinct, trust will. The tailed beast surged, coiling its massive tails like whips of living energy, stabilizing large swaths of the village. Shadow clones reformed midair, adapting to warped probability, while the streets and forests twisted back into Loki observed, fascinated. Ah, resilience, persistence, adaptation, exquisite. But even these have limits. With a subtle motion, Loki phased simultaneously into multiple points across the battlefield. He flickered above the village, among the broken forest, and behind Naruto in an impossible instant. Probability and perception warped around him, making it nearly impossible to predict his next movement. Naruto's eyes narrowed. He's everywhere and nowhere. Kurama's roar shook the forest. Chakra flared violently, striking threads of manipulation before they could fully manifest. Shadow clones moved in perfect synchronization with Naruto, countering illusions and protecting civilians from impossible hazards. Above, Pain and Itachi continued their observation. He is not attacking conventionally, yet every movement is a potential trap, Itachi said. Even the slightest overextension could be exploited. We must be precise. Pain's Rinnegan scanned further. Loki's focus is on the Nine Tails and Naruto. Any attack from us must coordinate perfectly, or it will fail catastrophically. Kisame's grin only grew. Chaos, gods, and monsters. Finally. About time we saw real carnage. Suddenly, Loki's green threads flared to maximum intensity. The battlefield twisted violently as reality bent sharply. Shadow clones phased in and out. Streets fractured. Buildings duplicated and overlapped, and the air shimmered with raw magical energy. Naruto and Kurama surged to maintain stability, their combined will and instinct countering the worst distortions. "Now, Kurama," Naruto shouted, chakra flaring in a massive wave. "We push forward together." The Nine Tails coiled around him, channeling its fury and instinct into a protective offensive surge. Red and black chakra tore through illusions, stabilized the forest, and created a zone of realignment amidst Loki's chaos. Shadow clones reformed in perfect synchronization, and the village streets bent back into their original positions, if only partially. Loki's laughter echoed across the battlefield. "Ah, finally, fury, instinct, and will intertwined. Let's see how you handle the ultimate test." In that instant, the full scale of Loki's power became evident. Reality itself seemed to ripple with his presence. Probability loops, spatial fractures, and time distortions surged outward. The sky twisted, clouds rotated impossibly, and the hidden leaf trembled under the combined force of gods and tailed beasts. The Akatsuki watched in tense anticipation, ready to strike at the precise moment, understanding that the very fabric of the battlefield now belonged as much to Loki as to any shinobi. And at the heart of it all, Naruto and Kurama stood united, a single force of human will and beastly instinct, facing a god whose curiosity was deadly, whose strategy could bend reality, and whose amusement demanded challenge. The war of gods and shinobi had reached its peak,